What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of The Lawyer You Know. I am Peter Tragos, and I'm a lawyer that's been following the Karen Read case. And all the parties have been called back to the courtroom right now. So we are on verdict watch. I would think if it is a verdict, they would say that and say what time they're going to read the verdict. So it might be another jury question. It may be that they're deadlocked. We don't know what the issue is. We're going to go to court, listen to it, see what they say is happening. We're also going to talk about the new verdict slip. We're going to talk about the Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure 27 dealing with verdicts. What can the judge do? What can the lawyers do at this point? And we're going to talk about some other miscellaneous things as we're on verdict watch. I expect my dad to join me at some point. But for now, let's get to it. All right, so everybody's been called back to the courtroom. That's what all the reports are saying. We have the court feed up, so we will be looking at that. We will be paying attention to that, and we're going to be jumping in there as soon as it is live. So as far as what it could be, obviously it could be a verdict. It could be a question. It could be the judge saying that they're deadlocked. So from my perspective, I would think based on the way this case and other cases have done verdicts in the past. Yes, I am a few minutes early just because they're all going back to court. But if you jump in, you're not going to miss much. Oh, I see my dad is here. Hello. You can't hear me? Okay, I can hear you. So it's an issue on your end, I think. Can people hear me? Yeah, everybody can hear me on the thing. So, all right, I'll let you figure it out. Give me a thumbs up when you can hear me. Okay, so if it was a verdict, I would assume that they would let us know, and they would say, we're going to read the verdict at 3:00 or 2:30 or something like that. Right. So they would let us know if they were going to read the verdict, I would think. Also, if the jury had a question, they mentioned it was a question. I still think a question could be a very reasonable thought here. If I had to guess, which I have no clue, right? If I'm right, I'm not a savant. If I'm wrong, you can call me an idiot. That's fine. I would think they're going to say they're deadlocked, potentially, which could be a real and legitimate issue. I see people saying 227. How amazing would it be if the verdict was at 227? That would be pretty wild. So I wanted to ask my dad about what he thought about this new verdict slip. So hopefully he comes back here soon. But for now, let's put up this verdict slip. If you can't see it, don't worry. I am going to read it for you. So this is what has been changed. Okay. All right. So you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen. I'm going to read it out loud. This is the new verdict slip. So this is what the jury is looking at now. We are watching the courthouse, by the way, Dad. I don't know if you were aware. They have told everybody to come back to the courtroom. They have not said what it was. I would think if it was a verdict, they would say, we have a verdict, so everybody come on down and we're going to read the verdict at 2:30, whatever it may be. It could be a jury question. They've also announced in the past that it's a jury question, or they could say they're deadlocked, which usually they don't have that announcement that we're going to come in and announce that it's deadlocked if that's what it is. So we're going to keep waiting. Like I said, I do have the stream up. You guys can let me know if they're back in the courtroom, and I can change streams. Right now I'm on Law and Crime stream. So here's the new verdict form, or updated verdict form, I should say. And it starts out the same with the offense of manslaughter, 1, not guilty. If you find the defendant not guilty of the offense charge or any lesser included offense, stop and sign the verdict slip. That's a little confusing to me just on its own, right? Or any lesser included. So there's not guilty of the offense charged and any lesser included feels like it makes more sense to me rather than or any, because it's like, okay, if it's any individual lesser included, that could kind of fit any lesser included. It's a little confusing to me just off of that language. Next is guilty of the offense charged, manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle. Okay, and we know the two indications of OUI. Then, this is what was added. This bold part, which they bolded it, which I think is interesting. They bolded it and said, if you find the defendant guilty of manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, stop and sign the verdict slip. If you find her not guilty of manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, then continue below, which I find that language to be interesting as far as double jeopardy arguments in the future. How do you think that, because usually if you're hung on, the lesser included, you can try the whole charge, but now they're basically telling the jury to find her not guilty before they get to the lesser includeds. If they hang on a lesser included, they can retry her on the main charge. Do you think there's any double jeopardy arguments there?
I really don't, because again, double jeopardy applies to the facts, not necessarily the wording of a particular charge. But if the facts are the same in two charges, so in this case, there's one set of facts. The only thing that's kind of funny is there may be not one set of facts, because they may be looking at a DUI that happened after 12/32. So there may be a difference in the fact pattern here. But generally, I don't think any of the courts in Massachusetts are going to say this is double jeopardy. I just don't see it.
Asnat said, please explain what's a deadlock. That just means the jury can't agree, right? So it's like, whether it's 8-2, 5-7, whatever it is, they can't agree. They're at a deadlock. And yeah, so your explanation is basically why they're not the hung on any of the counts. You can retry the full count. And right. That's the general description. And it feels like double jeopardy. It feels like they're saying she's not guilty of it. And like you're saying, it feels like a different factual scenario, no collision, and maybe even a completely different time frame. I mean, that is frustrating. And I can understand how a layperson, how just a normal everyday citizen would feel like that is a not guilty verdict and they should not be able to try her on it again. So I do understand that. And that's kind of where I think the law and common sense can disagree some. So just to see the rest of the verdict slip, again, it's the same. Guilty of the lesser included, motor vehicle homicide. If you find her guilty, sign and say the verdict slip and you're done. If you find her not guilty of motor vehicle homicide, then you continue on. And again and again, I would feel like they are going to make this argument if it ends up coming back hung. But I also think, do you think this? Here's a question for you. Do you think it matters what the jurors say, what their questions are based on the scenario we're just laying out? Let's say they come back and say, not guilty on count one, not guilty, like they say, Judge Cannone, we are done. Not guilty count one, not guilty count three. We have found her to be not guilty of, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or whatever it is. And then number 5, just the OUI is what we are hung on at this point. Would any of that have an effect on your double jeopardy thoughts or appellate thoughts?
It would not, except I think this judge is hung up and trying very hard not to tell them what she really should tell them. If there's a word in their question or some way for her to avoid giving them a better explanation of what they really should do and what their job is, she'll grab it. She really, I hate to say this, but she's not trying to unconfuse the jury. She's not trying to help them. And it's her job to give them the law. And the law is you find them guilty of the most serious offense of these offenses that you believe has been proved beyond a reasonable doubt. But she just is not trying to explain it to them. If they come back with a question that says if again, she's going to say that they're just speculating and she won't give them an answer. That's what she did the first time. So I don't have a lot of faith in her helping the jury come to a decision. I see the fan here. I don't see.
Everybody's asking to keep the fan on, so we'll let it go. So I will note a couple things. There have been reports that there's not another jury question. There have been reports there's not a jury note. There's also the verdict clock continues to tick, which that could mean they're still deliberating, or it could just mean that Law and Crime or nobody else, knows that there is a verdict, and that's why the clock is still ticking. We really have no idea. I am trying to keep up on Twitter here. So what we'll do is I really want to read through the Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure 27.
The only one who really knows what's going on is the bailiff. Because you can always tell from a bailiff's face or what a bailiff does, because a bailiff knows. Number one, they're not supposed to, but bailiffs can overhear because there's outside the door of the jury room usually. So they overhear what's going on. Number two, excuse me?
I was just trying to see if there's another view I can use, but it doesn't look like there is.
Okay. Secondly, they're the ones that come to the bailiff and they ask the bailiff the questions first. That's normally really what happens. And then the bailiff says, no, I can't answer that question. You're going to have to ask the judge. And then they'll do what they're supposed to do. But the only one that really knows what's going on right now is that bailiff. He knows if there's a verdict or not. He knows if it's a question or not. He knows what the questions are, but obviously he doesn't know the answers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do think that anything is possible at this point. I would just be surprised if they didn't actually announce a verdict, unless they think there's some kind of security issue, potentially. And if there is a security issue, and that's why they didn't announce the verdict, because, we heard security is ramping up. Everybody is trying to find every indication, how the jurors are dressed, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see. If it's a verdict, we're going to watch it here together. Papa T got all the tea. Put that on a shirt. You're welcome. Jury saying they're deadlocked on OUI. I have not seen any reports of that. But again, I don't know how accurate the reports are anyways, because people are saying I'm behind. I'm literally, it won't let me skip forward anymore here. If there's another stream you guys want me to put on, I can look it up and put it on. If I'm behind, it's like literally 5 seconds behind. Peter, can you describe to us how trial lawyers feel when they learn there's a verdict in a case? I'm a nervous wreck already. Why don't you take that one, Dad?
It is the worst part of a trial. After you finish your jury, your final argument, it is the worst part of the trial. There's nothing else you can do. You'll second guess yourself. Gosh, should I have done that? Should I have said that? Should I have put that witness on? You'll sit back and do that, and you just have to sit there, and it's the worst part. Yeah, I'm sure it's the worst part for the client as well, but it's the worst part for the lawyer to sit there and, because you're always second guess yourself about something you could have done better or something you could have done differently. So it is the worst part of the trial, and you just sit there and sweat because there's nothing you can do. You hold the hand of your client, and you can't concentrate on doing anything for any other case you've got because your mind is on this case. So you just sit there and sweat.
And just so everybody can just calm down, I have Boston 10 and Boston 25 up in the background. If they're in court at some point, we will see it, rest assured. But for now, we're going to keep answering some questions while we wait. What if they're deadlocked on OUI, not the other lessers? So we kind of have answered this. What do you think the chances are based on the jury questions that it's all of this discussion has just been around OUI, or do you think they really were giving that hypothetically?
I don't think it was. I really, from their question, I really think they've got 2 out of 3 taken care of. So there's only one line from the lessers that they're looking at. The OUI was an interesting question, but remember, only one juror really has to have that question. It doesn't have to be the entire jury. One juror can say, hey, I want to know da, 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 da. And he has a right for the foreman to send a note into the judge saying, here's a question that we have. So it could only be one juror that really is concerned about the timeline for that OUI.
Mm-hmm. You're applying logic here, Peter, to why things are being done or why they're being called back to court. To be fair, none of this is clear English. Fingers crossed. Hello from Erie. It's true. We really don't know. We really don't know. Would either of you be starting to get nervous if you were her lawyers? Thank you both so much. You both give me hope in the system. You can go first and then I'll answer.
I'd be nervous. Again, I said that. I'm nervous from the time I finish the closing argument. While I'm in trial, frankly, I'm calm. I'm concentrated. I'm thinking about nothing else. I'm focused. When it's over and the jury final argument is done, then you have nothing else to think about. So then you start thinking, maybe I'm nervous. And so, yes, from the time I finish my closing argument, I have nerves.
I don't really have any nerves here. People are like asking, are you nervous for the Karen Read verdict? I'm like, not really. I don't know why. I don't feel any nerves for the Karen Read verdict. When I do my own trials, after the closing argument's done and the adrenaline comes down, I'm sweating immediately. And yes, very nervous. Here we go.
You see the court is in session.
All right. I appreciate you all getting back here. During the luncheon break, I received word from a court officer that the jury had knocked on the door, indicating that they had a verdict. But before I could even summons everybody into court, shortly thereafter, they knocked again and said they didn't have a verdict.
Oh, no.
So I asked the court officer to tell them to put that verdict slip in an envelope and seal it, and to give it to us. Paul, do you have?
Oh no.
What else could happen in this case?
This is going to have real implications going forward. So just wait. I've got a lot to say about this.
I haven't seen this. It's been sealed. I'm now going to seal it in the legal sense. So this is sealed. No one will have access to it. It will be preserved and made part of this record. I'm going to ask it to be marked for identification with the word jury, Chrissy, just to keep it separate and apart from everything else. So it's marked for ID with the word jury. All right. So we do not have a verdict because, as we all know, there is no verdict until it is announced and recorded in open court. So we are still awaiting a verdict. Because it took a while to pull this together, I would ask that everybody remain in the building until the end of the day. So we'll see everybody later.
Thank you. All right.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Now I feel like an adrenaline rush all of a sudden, because when something like this happens, lawyers start thinking, they start working, things start happening immediately when something like this happens. Okay, so I've got some questions for you. I know you probably have some initial thoughts, but I want to kind of frame them in the version of my questions. By the way, I have it up in the background. And again, I have all three streams going. If there's an announcement, there's court, anything like that, we're going to roll till 4:00 today. We're going to be on here streaming till 4:00. Dad, you can stay as long as you want. And then we'll close when they close the day. Today is when we'll end our stream. But so just to recap what happened, Judge Cannone says during the lunch hour, there's a knock at the door. We have a verdict. And then before we could get everybody together, so I think the lunch hour was 12:30 to 1:30. So I don't know how long it took everybody to get together, but that seems a little, why are we doing this? I wish we didn't have these kinds of issues. Then another knock. Just kidding. We don't have a verdict. My first question to you, has this ever happened to you before?
I'm trying to think.
50 years. 50 years of trying criminal cases, literally. State, federal, prosecuting, defending. Has this literally ever happened to you before?
No.
That's crazy.
No, I've never had it. I've had them say we have a question, and then by the time we get them in, they say, no, we don't have that question anymore. I've had that happen, but I've never had a verdict in situation. And frankly, Judge Cannone did not handle it the way she should have. I mean, she really did. She didn't handle it the way she should have.
Okay. Well, I want to get your thoughts. I've had a screwed up verdict form before. Never had this happen before, ever. Never had this happen before, ever. Which isn't a surprise if you've never had it happen. Okay. So how did she screw up?
This is obviously a confusing situation. And on the record, she should clear it up. And the way she should clear it up is she should bring the jury back into the courtroom. She should talk to the jury foreman and say, Mr. Foreman, I just want to verify some information I've received. First, did you in fact tell a bailiff that you had a verdict? Yes, no. Okay. And then did you in fact tell the bailiff that situation had changed and you do not have a verdict? Yes, Judge, that's fine. Okay. So then the record is clear. And you can go back and you want to continue your deliberations at this time. Yes. All right. Then you go back and continue deliberations. But she should have had a better record from the jurors as to what happened, because, come on, I bet this never happened to her either. And so she really should have made a record on that. She shouldn't have just let it go with there was a knock on the door, they said this, and there was a knock on the door, they said that. She should have made a better record.
Well, especially because that's getting, we're at third or fourth hand at that point, right? You have the jurors talking to the bailiff, talking to the judge. What if the jurors said, we have a verdict, and then they're like, well, we actually have a question about the verdict, and the bailiff took that to mean, well, they don't have a verdict anymore, and they really just had a question. There's just so many things that can be lost in translation. Right. Or what if there was like some kind of major misunderstanding and you don't get any, and now she would not have said, what was your verdict? What was the vote? Why are you guys opening it up again? She would not have entered the province of the jury and really dug in. That's not what it would have literally just been to confirm, just like you said, what was said, what happened, how did we get here? And that's incredibly important as we're going through this. And so we have a lot of questions coming in. I really want to answer them. I want to read this rule though. So I'm going to put up this rule because again, this rule is even more important and relevant at this point. This is the Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure 27, the verdict. Okay. This is the rule on how to handle a verdict. And I'm just going to read through it and we're going to talk about how relevant this has been. The verdict shall be unanimous. It shall be a general verdict returned by the jury to the judge in open court. The jury shall file a slip with the clerk upon the return of the verdict. So this is not a verdict because it was not in open court. Okay. According to the judge, they changed their mind. It was never read in open court. It's gone. By the way, I feel like I have to mention this verdict was filled out, was dated, was signed, was sealed, and nobody gets to see it. But after the trial, the lawyers are going to get to see what that verdict was filled out. So how do you think that's going to happen? How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Does anybody not think there's a good chance of a hung jury in this case? Yeah, there's at least one juror who voted yes 30 minutes ago or an hour ago and voted no an hour later. So you talk about someone not having a firm conviction about guilt or innocence. That juror certainly does not have a firm conviction about guilt or innocence. Also, let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope there's not some fights going on in that jury room.
It sounds like a bully juror potentially, like somebody got bullied into voting a certain way and then changed their mind.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that could be going on, and this is a very suspicious activity that we had here, and that's why she really should have cleared it up. Because if a juror wanted, another thing too is a juror would have had a right if they say, "Look, Judge, we'd like to speak, in camera. We'd like to, speak."
They don't know that though, but
they don't. But I'm saying if the judge would have given them the opportunity, if she called them all into the courtroom and said, "Is this what happened?" And then this what happened. Yes. Okay, fine. You can go back and deliberate. And then if some juror wanted to say, wanted to raise their hand or something, at least they had the opportunity. Here, they've got no contact with the judge and no contact with the official court record so that there can be something on the record about what happened.
Yeah. And from the perspective of like the lawyers go back and they get to read this, let's say it's all checked, not guilty. Thank you, Rebecca, for gifting 20 memberships, by the way. Let's say they check the box, not guilty. They sign the bottom. That they're going to make the same arguments they've made before. Appeal. They signed these not guilty verdicts. This was it. It's over. It's going to be the same rulings. It's all the same case law we read last time. It's all the same arguments we talked about last time. And this is why this is case law, basically, right? This is probably going to become case law just like that. I can't remember what the case is. I think it's an M case, but where they had the verdict, it was all filled out in the jury room. But then they changed their minds. They revoted. And that's the point about a final verdict. And that's why everybody about the last trial and the last jury can come out and say, we had not guilty verdicts. We actually weren't. This is like everything taking another step from trial number one, which I just can't believe. But this is the truth that at this point, there is no final verdict. They changed their mind. So even if they voted not guilty and signed the bottom, that is not guilty. That is not double jeopardy. If they end up hung on all three counts, she can get retried at this point, even though they said we have a verdict. That's the big thing at play here, especially when you compare it to trial one.
Okay, another thing that's going to happen, and it's got to happen. If that was all not guilties, and then they come back with a guilty on something, that there's going to be some motions filed about jury misconduct or a motion filed about the judge has to do an inquiry into the jury as to what happened. So the judge at some point is going to probably end up questioning the jury about what happened. I mean, that's just inevitable when you have a confusing situation like this. That the judge, again, has a responsibility because it's her courtroom and her jury. She's got to find out what happened and make sure that nothing improper happened.
Right. And okay, so let's keep reading the rule because all of this is really relevant to what the rule can do. Because judge can always like, well, I can't answer that. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, can she? Is she right? Let's take a look at what the rule says about the judicial discretion. First off, several offenses or defendants. Tell me if you can figure out why this is relevant. If there are two or more offenses, meaning charges, or defendants tried together, the jury may, with the consent of the judge, at any time during its deliberations, return or be required by the judge to return a verdict or verdicts with respect to the defendants or charges. By the way, somebody needs to rewrite this rule where it's either charges or offenses because they're using them interchangeably. And when we write rules, we like consistency. Or charges as to with a verdict has been reached. Is that am I messing that up or is that just bad typing? And thereafter, the jury may, in its discretion of the judge, resume deliberation. The judge may declare a mistrial as to any charges upon which the jury cannot agree upon a verdict, provided, however, that the judge may first require the jury to return verdicts on those charges upon which the jury can agree and direct that such verdicts be received and recorded. So what this means in this case is the judge can and really should get as many verdicts as you can because we want verdicts. We want finality. We don't want to have to do this all over again. So when you read that in Massachusetts and you have the jury questions we have, very obviously indicating this jury has come to a decision on at least 2, now maybe 3 of the counts. What do you think this rule says about what Judge Cannone should do at this point?
Well, I'm looking at the next thing. The trial judge may submit special questions to the jury.
Correct. That was going to be my next. That was gonna be my next. So the trial judge may submit special questions. So they even have it in the rule. Why do you guys, look at how limited this rule is. Okay. That's it. Okay. These are the reporter's notes. That's not part of the rule. It's A, B, C, and D in bold, big font in front of you. So it's not like they were like, let's write a 20-page rule for every scenario that could possibly come up. There are 4 sections. And one of the sections, 25% of the rule is the judge may submit special questions to the jury. Use your discretion to get to a fair and just and true verdict. They even have it in the rule. So what do you think she should do?
Well, what I think she should do. I think that she, again, should do a better job of instructing them about finding verdicts on each individual count and how you find a verdict on each count. You know, I don't know why, Peter. I really can't tell you why, what my feeling is, but I have a feeling it was 3 not guilties. And I have a feeling that one person changed their mind and said, you know, I just can't say not guilty, and it's holding them back. Because I've got that feeling that it was 3 not guilties, and there's one person that can't vote not guilty.
I think there is a stronger push back there for not guilty votes than there are for guilty. And I feel like maybe 1 or 2, and it almost makes me feel, and this is just total based off feel, that maybe it's not just one. Maybe there are 2 people together. They started talking. They're like, we can't do this. We've got to change our vote back, whatever. Maybe it's one very strong-willed person. I will tell you, based on juror research, you would have to be an incredibly strong-willed person to go against 11 other people on something like this, especially after you just voted not guilty or guilty, whatever it was that it changed. So that would be very interesting to me. I absolutely think, based on the questions we have at this point, if I was the defense, I would ask the judge to ask the jury a special question and ask them if they have come to a verdict on 2 of the counts, they can do that and keep deliberating on the 3rd count. I would ask the judge to do that special question using both paragraphs B and C, which says she absolutely has the discretion to do that, and let them continue to deliberate. Do you think that's worth it for the defense to even try?
I do. I do. I don't think it'd be reversible error if she denies it, but I do think that they should try. Absolutely. They should try everything. They have tried everything. So why should they stop now?
And when my dad says reversible error, it basically means, is it such a big screw up if she says no to that Karen Reed's automatically going to win the appeal? The answer to that is very clearly no, because judicial discretion, as you're going to see throughout this rule, is the most important thing about the rule. The judge has discretion. Now, what is the judge going to do with that discretion? That's a big question. Let's look at the last paragraph, which I think became even more relevant right now. When a verdict is returned and before the verdict is recorded, the jury may, not must, may be polled. Is it the defendant's right? Is it the defendant's constitutional right to poll a jury? No. They may be polled in the discretion of the judge. If after the poll there is not a unanimous occurrence, the jury may be directed to retire for further deliberations or may be discharged, which is exactly what could have happened here. Now, what we would know at that point, because they would have already announced the verdict, we would know what the verdict is. And when they say, juror number 1, is that your verdict? Yes. 2, yes. 3, yes. 4, yes. 5, yes. 6, no. Then everything would have changed. Kelsey is announcing to me that we have a verdict. So, and you know, that's usually how it happens. if there's a verdict, usually they announce a verdict. So we are going to get the fan back up here. We got to get through a little bit of that rule. I wanted to get through even more of it, but let me see here. I'm popping onto Twitter to see what it's looking like. A very weird first thing. I am not seeing that, but Kelsey said we have a verdict. I should be looking at the chat. They're back. Everybody's saying they're back. Court's back. Okay. A verdict has officially been reached. Just got word at 2:36. All right. Buckle up. Here we go. And we are as live as possible here in the courtroom. Is everybody nervous? Tell me if you're nervous. Everybody seems very nervous. All right, we'll see if prediction. So your prediction is what? 3 not guilties?
Yes. I'll go out on a limb. 3 not guilties.
I kind of think based on the flip-flop and verdict that you may be right. I'll stick with just guilty on OUI. I would be pretty shocked at this point. I'll just say, and I'll just put this out there. I would be pretty shocked if they found her guilty of count 1 or count 3 or any of the higher charges on count 2 that include a collision with a car in John O'Keefe's body. I would be pretty shocked. If the OUI is guilty, I'm not shocked. And if it's not guilty, also not shocked.
Yeah. The OUI is guilty. It wouldn't bother me because that's a win. So it certainly wouldn't bother me any.
Next video, father and son timepiece watch collection. That's right. Everybody hit that like button, by the way. If you haven't yet, hit the like button before we get the verdict in. Whatever happens, this trial has been uniquely intriguing. She's a normal person who has been hounded by the police and Commonwealth. I'm hoping the best for her. This just reminded me I want to check something on Instagram. Okay, so a Massachusetts DUI lawyer named Michael Del Signor, and I wanted to clear with him that it was cool that I said this, reached out, was like, hey, awesome coverage. Love when you guys do the videos. I feel like I've learned so much from watching this trial. And I would agree with him. And he was like, hey, so other ones, I want to make sure I watch them. And I was like, listen, I said, thanks, Mike. I said, so a DUI lawyer in Massachusetts, what is a normal disposition? What is a normal sentence or penalty for a first-time DUI in Massachusetts? And he says 1 year probation and complete a 40-hour, 16-week class called the 24D program, 45-day license loss. Judge Canoni used to be a district court judge. She would have given that many times on a first-time OUI. I would not expect any sort of trial penalty if it's just a conviction on the OUI. So that's somebody who, and I looked them up, real lawyer, real DUI or OUI lawyer in Massachusetts. So if she is guilty on just the OUI, that's what she should get. What will she get, right? Will that be different? That was another tidbit I wanted to share. Okay. We will answer questions till we get a verdict, Taylor, and then we'll answer more after. Is there a time frame for the Commonwealth to retry this if it's a hung jury, or can they potentially do it forever? If you mean for just the next trial, there is a time frame. I don't know what it is in Massachusetts. I don't know if it's like 90 days, 6 months, or a year. Those are the 3 different time frames I've seen in other jurisdictions. 227 verdict would be so apropos. I agree, but it's going to be a little after. The unverdict. Yeah. Hopefully this is, just much ado about nothing. And it doesn't end up being a big deal. That whole maybe a verdict, maybe not a verdict. Has this ever happened to you? No. It was a bit of a tease, but I mean, the lawyers had to have been sweating after that, right? Although, here's what I said. When we talked about being nervous waiting for the verdict, after we got those questions, I would have been a lot less nervous. What about you?
I would have been, but it's still stressful. I mean, it is the most stressful time.
Yeah. Peter, if they're hung, will Bev send them back? Absolutely. You would definitely send them back at least once, probably twice. Cora, hi, Peter and Dad. If deadlock, shouldn't the judge ask them on the record, okay, did you agree on any of the charges so they don't retry her on the charges they found not guilty already? I've seen other judges do it this way. That is within the judge's discretion. I think they absolutely should have. She should have. But hey, again, hopefully much ado about nothing because we have a verdict coming. Will Bev ask if they're hung on all charges? Hopefully we won't have to ever find that out. Bobby, shout out to my girlfriend, Stasia, and her coworkers at Cohate. I feel like I mispronounced everything in that sentence. My husband, Danny, is outside of court right now representing in a green lawyer hat. I had a couple people reach out to me today that were outside saying, hey, there's a lot of lawyer people.
How cool is that?
Yeah, really cool. How do they not have a verdict? How do they have a verdict and then not have one? It's wild. It's wild. Yes, my adrenaline addiction. It is true. It is true. Is this normal? Is this cause for concern? It's definitely not normal. And it would it still could be. I think if this is a guilty verdict anywhere, and here's what we hope happens. That sealed verdict that nobody has seen, hopefully that is the same verdict that they end up coming out with now. And that just kind of eliminates all of the issues of corruption and, inducement and appellate issues. Hopefully it's the same verdict. If it is, it will become basically a non-issue or close to a non-issue. If it's different, go ahead.
Peter, question I have. She sealed that verdict, right? Did she send back another verdict form?
I would assume so.
I would assume so too, but you would think that she put that on the record, that she sent back another verdict form.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely would have had to, obviously, if they filled it all out.
Yeah.
Rebecca said, thank you for your service, Papa T. John O'Rourke said, will they read both verdicts? No, they're not going to read the sealed verdict. That'll become part of the record, but it's not going to be read on the record here because it's not a verdict. Biggest courtroom crap show ever. This trial is a joke. It is kind of crazy. It is crazy. I don't know about you, Peter, but I'm having a sphincter spasm. My sphincter's good right now. So does this mean someone changed their mind? At least one person, right? At least one person, I would think. By the way, it said we have a verdict and the verdict clock is still going. So something stinks, somebody said. The knock heard around the world. So what is the purpose of the signed verdict they added to the record? Is that not a legitimate verdict? Well, it just depends on what happened before, during, and after all of that. Will that become a big problem later? It's part of the record. It doesn't mean it's something nefarious. Peter and Papa T, what are the sort of case law could you see being adopted as a result of this trial, if any? So it's not going to be necessarily from this trial, but other stuff would have to get appealed. But go ahead. What do you think could possibly come out of this?
Well, number one, I think that Massachusetts should change their verdict form. That they really need to do that. And some appellate judges should really realize you need to change your verdict form. It's a mess. And it really doesn't account for situations like this and causes confusion. So that's number one. I really don't know. Some of her rulings could be some good case law, like what you can impeach on. How can you cross-examine on somebody else's report that you looked at while you were making your decision? Because we saw her stop cross-examination on is it Porter Proctor, that troop that did not testify, Paul. Yeah, that you wouldn't let cross-examine on Paul, and that just made no sense whatsoever. So it could change the law on some cross-examination issues. I don't know. It's obviously there's got to be a guilty verdict for there to be an appeal. So if it's a not guilty verdict, then it won't change any case law, except for maybe like we have in Florida, committees that rewrite jury instructions and jury verdicts, those kind of things. If there's a committee person watching this, they might realize they need to rewrite that. So they don't need any case law to do that.
Yeah, they definitely need to make some changes for sure. Yeah, we need to change that, Kelsey. There was something I was gonna say. Oh, so people are like, literally, my phone is just like exploding right now with text messages. And it's been such a crazy day today that I have had in one day, just today. I've had multiple people that I went to law school with. I've had somebody that works at a doctor's office that we work with, that we were corresponding about a mutual client patient, reach out that they're all on verdict watch with the lawyer, an opposing counsel on a car accident case that we have reached out, said the same thing. And a former judge reached out, said the same thing. People from my kids' school reaching out all year. All these people here in Florida.
We should also shout out to Dan, because Dan, our co-counsel in another case, he's probably watching. So Dan, here's a shout out to you.
Exactly. Yes. Dan will send me a long email. So Dan will tell that story another time. But he's another lawyer in Florida we're working on a case with, and he's got these long breakdowns that he sends me. And it's like, it's so funny the way lawyers are so interested. Oh, and a lawyer I tried, one of my very first cases at the state attorney's office, a private criminal defense attorney who was a much better attorney than me in that trial. We happened to win the trial because we had the better case because we were the prosecutor. But he also was texting me about Karen Reed as well over the last week. So it's just very, very wild to think about how this case has spread throughout the country. It is absolutely wild. Somebody said Law and Crime is behind. Okay, I will put on one of the other streams that we have up. All right, somebody said Court TV's is better. Let's put on Court TV's stream. I don't see any of them showing the courtroom at this point. None of the Boston channels either. All right, let's check all the other ones here. See what else we got.
Maybe they're counting how many times the fan goes around and which one. Maybe one of them's ahead of the curve on the fan.
Yeah, I don't see court open or live on any of them, just FYI. Turtle Boy just tweeted, Jim McDermott told us he doesn't know if the sealed verdict slip given to Cannoni will ever be opened. WTF does that mean? I would think it would have to be open as part of the appeal. If there's a guilty verdict, I would think they would have to see. Oh, great. Somebody said, no, Court TV is always behind. All right, guys, come on. I mean, how far behind can we possibly be? All right, I will put on Boston. Is this Boston? Which one is this? Boston 25. Okay, we'll put this one on. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Still just the fan everywhere. Still just the fan everywhere. Do the lawyers get to know the verdict before us? No. It's read aloud in the courtroom. Now, if there's like an issue with the verdict form, sometimes they'll come up and, show the lawyer, say, what are we going to do? How do you want to handle this, et cetera, et cetera. Just when we think we're out, they pull us back in. That's from Scarface, right?
No, it's from Godfather.
Godfather. Just when they think we're out. Same guy. If found not guilty, can you please interview Karen Reed? I'm not sure Karen Reed, she's going to have a lot of interviews to do, would be my guess.
She probably had too many before the trial.
Yeah. Hopefully she hasn't been doing any during the trial this time. Can the judge be disciplined? Who would discipline the judge if she was really running amok here?
Well, it depends. If Massachusetts has it like Florida, there is a panel that reviews judges and does discipline. I doubt very much if she's going to be disciplined. Be honest with you. Most of the stuff, we might not agree with her discretionary rulings, and we don't. But the courts make rulings lawyers disagree with all the time, and judges don't get punished for making wrong rulings or rulings that lawyers disagree with.
How can you have a signed version and then change it? I mean, until it's over, it ain't over, right? I mean, right now, right? Everybody's coming back to the courthouse. Could they change their mind again? I guess theoretically they could. I don't think they will. Peter, does the juror foreman hand that verdict to the officer? They can then rescind the verdict. I mean, theoretically, yes. It's obviously very unusual, like we're talking about. This is veering into farcical right now. If it wasn't before, mind blown. I'm with Papa T, and I think it's super suspicious. This trial is completely a circus. I figuratively ran here. Some people were sending those memes of the guy running down into the wrestling ring. He's like me hearing that the Karen Reed verdict is on. That's awesome. These trials.
This gave everybody time to get in front of the TV, or get in front of the YouTube, or get in front of
they've done that. They've done that where they wait to announce the verdict for everybody to get there. I mean, nobody could be that far away. Any chance the jurors are worried they filled the slip out wrong? I don't know. Any chance? Sure. I don't answer theoretical questions. Somebody posted that on Twitter today. It was just hilarious. Is Judge Cannoni going to give him a new slip? Good point, Brian. These trials show you how creative and funny and smart people are with all the memes and stuff that come out of it. It's truly wild. Defense is going to appeal the crap out of any conviction if there is one. I mean, they've got a lot of fodder for sure. Why does she have the verdict in her hand? Aren't they supposed to give it to her in open court? This is very suspicious. So the fact that they rescinded the verdict, she put it in so they would give it to the bailiff. Bailiff would give it to the judge. She usually checks to make sure it's okay. They read it in open court. What if there's a bully juror? Can they be removed? I mean, if the jurors all came out and were like, this guy's screaming at us and he's bringing stuff in from outside of court and he's free Karen Reed or a, anti Karen Reed, whatever, potentially they could be removed. But sometimes it's just bully by personality, right? If Judge Bev is so by the book, all right. Is it moving? No, sorry. I thought it was moving. If Judge Bev is so by the book, wouldn't she be required to accept the first verdict regardless of the follow-up knock? Thanks for your awesome coverage, Peter. No, and all the case law would support that as well. Mr. Tragos, curious how you feel that your son is only a civil lawyer. He's joking, by the way. This is his sarcasm. LOL. Now my question, can the judge dismiss with prejudice the lesser included offenses under count 2 if the jury indicates not guilty?
Well, they'll, as a matter of law, the judge doesn't have to do anything. As a matter of law, they'll be gone. Yeah.
Could it be that they realized they filled it out wrong, or maybe they agreed on OUI and then someone said, no, not even that, this kills me? Yes, I think that's absolutely possible. Think the jurors are stuck on OUI, horrific. So that's what all of us are guessing, but oh boy, would it be a curveball if it's guilty on something else. I mean, everybody just brace yourselves. You never know what a jury's going to do. I feel like they decided on guilty for the OUI, and the holdout is not having a clear answer on making sure that doesn't convict her of the other charges. I do think that the new verdict form we read at the very beginning where it says, if she's not guilty, then you move on. That should put people at ease that if you convict on the OUI, you're not going to be convicting on the higher charges. Thanks, Peter. What happens with this verdict slip? Could she have just let them keep deliberating? She did let them keep deliberating, yes. From a reasonable degree of YouTube certainty, your YouTube lives and recaps are the best. Chris Gray, I hereby find you to be an expert in YouTube, everything YouTube. Bev can't be bothered with all those words and all these rules. Dear jurors, it's my birthday. Not guilty, please. Pizza, can you welcome my future sister-in-law, Julianne, to the Lawyer You Know community? Thank you so much. Welcome, Julianne. Peter, does the jury get a new slip to replace the one that was sealed? So everybody had the same question as you, Dad. I mean, I would assume she would have to, right? Not send it back there and say, send it back there and say, cross stuff out and try again.
Yeah. No, she had to. It just, it just was kind of weird. And let me just throw this out.
Go ahead.
Normally, jury's got a verdict. You call the jury in, and in open court, the foreman hands the verdict to the bailiff or the clerk. Then they hand it to the judge for the judge to review before announcing it. In this case, they gave that improper or revoked verdict form, obviously, to a bailiff. And the bailiff brought it into the judge because we didn't see it happen in open court. So the judge never saw a juror give it to the bailiff. And just all the judge knows that the bailiff gave it to her. So that none of that was done in open court. And normally it would be.
Yeah, and that to me would indicate how quickly maybe the turnaround was. But again, you know how we would get that answer? Exactly like you said, if she just would have asked the juror in open court. Like immediately when you handed it to the bailiff, did they say knock again, we changed our mind? Was it 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later? But you're right. I mean, literally just the Massachusetts rules for reasonable doubt and how they define reasonable doubt, that you would go home and you'd be convinced firmly of your verdict. That's beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, how much clearer does it get that that person would not be? The victim and family have been forgotten, in my opinion, in the trial, the botched investigation, the Karen supporters outside, hard for John O'Keefe's family. I agree it's very hard for John O'Keefe's family. There's two very distinct sides to this entire case, and it's a tragedy. It is absolutely a tragedy, but again, the blame to me is on the cops and the investigation and the horrible job they did, because that's why there's not going to be closure, or at least, I mean, we don't know what the verdict's going to be. So, I mean, I guess if it's guilty across the board, John O'Keefe's family might feel like there was closure. So we'll see if there's any not guilties on some of the heavier charges. I don't think they're ever going to feel like they got justice in this case.
And it's obvious that Brennan, in his closing argument, that's one of the things that he emphasized was John O'Keefe's family. He was a real person. You know, he's somebody that deserves justice. That was all part of Brennan's appeal to the jury when he was doing his closing.
And I think that was a smart thing to do.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Why could they do multiple verdicts in the Epstein case, but not this one? Guilty on one, not guilty on another, and hung on the last. They absolutely can. And that's why I was reading through that verdict rule from the Massachusetts Rules of Criminal Procedure. What if the jurors just panicked, thinking they may have filled out wrong, then quickly retracted it, Might we get a verdict or another question soon? Shout out to my mom, Ida. Well, Amanda, you're a teller of the future there, because you're right. We had a quick verdict after that. I have my staff addicted to the trial, watching from inside a men's prison in Michigan. Please give a shout out to Morgan, Barry, and Sheila for me. We got firefighters, we got prisons watching, we got law offices, doctors' offices. Everybody's watching this, it seems like. Verdict is in. Verdict is in. Regardless of the outcome, this judge has irreparably made me lose faith in our justice system. Well, here's what I would say, Uki. Watch some other trials, right? Because every judge is a little bit different. Every jurisdiction is a little bit different. And maybe we can inject some life and trust into our judicial system. And let's see what the verdict is, right? Did it just zoom in and out, or is that just me? Because I feel like the camera's moving. Maybe they agreed to sign it to just be done and not hung. And then they said they couldn't say if they were pulled. I don't know if they know about, here we go. I got to figure out which one I'm on here. All right, folks.
Will the deliberating jurors remain standing? Defendant remains standing. All other parties may be seated.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that 12 deliberating jurors and 6 alternates are present.
Yes.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, members of the jury, have you agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. May I see the papers? Mr. Foreman, have the verdict slips been placed in this envelope and have they been in your presence ever since? Mr. Foreman, on docket number 2282CR117001, murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
No surprise.
So say you? No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree? Thank you.
Polling-ish.
002, what say is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Yes.
003, what say is the defendant at the bar
Did they say guilty or not guilty for that? I can't.
Guilty. Guilty.
in the scene after accident resulting in death? The defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
To hear the
Jurors,
people
how can you
outside.
work as the court records that you upon your oath say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, jurors, everybody please be seated. Jurors, we thank you for your service. We're going to send you back to services complete.
Hey, just verdict.
I agree. We'll talk about it in a second. I just want to see if they say anything else, and we'll get their reaction.
We'll talk to you for a little bit afterwards. So thank you very much.
All rise.
Is Janetta crying?
Jurors, follow me.
Yeah, he is. Janetti's crying.
Well, yeah, this has been like probably his life for years. And I mean, you know what it's like to represent somebody you fully believe is innocent. It's way harder,
Oh, yeah.
way more stressful. Then you're like, not sure.
How
Wow.
many years he's devoted to this
Can you
case?
please exit the courtroom immediately?
I mean,
Karen Reed.
parents just
Yeah,
have
hold on, everyone.
over the
Karen Reek, Ms. Reek, can I have your attention? As required by statute, I must inform you that the records regarding the charges that you have been found not guilty will be sealed by the Commissioner of Probation by the court unless you notify the Commissioner of Probation in writing within 10 days that you do not want these records sealed. To request that these records not be sealed, you may use the request not to seal form, which is posted on the trial court's website on mass.gov. I cannot accept the form here in court. You must submit it to the Commissioner of Probation at the address provided on the form. Please be aware that if the records regarding the charges which you have been found not guilty are sealed, you will be unable to access the sealed record of the not guilty dispositions or any other records regarding those charges. If you want copies of any documents regarding those charges before the records are sealed, you should request copies from the court within 10 days. Do you understand? Thank you.
All right, so we need a date for sentencing. Can we do it next week?
And we would be prepared to go forward today.
Okay. Okay.
Brennan says he's ready today.
Yeah. My guess, okay, this is just my guess, and you can give me yours. My guess is the defense wants to go sidebar because they're wondering, like, are you guys seeking jail time? They want to know where everybody's head's
No,
at. I do not think we're going to have sentencing today if anybody wants jail time.
I got to be honest with you. If Brennan's a decent guy, he will just give him the standard DUI, and that's it.
Yeah, the standard
And-
first blow, which, by the way, in case anybody in the chat thinks that's weird, like 99% of the time, that's what happens on a standard first-time DUI.
Right. If he's a gentleman, that's what he'll do.
All right, so Mr. Yannetti, you ready to go forward today as well?
Oh, he is.
Hey, Mr. Brennan, what's the Commonwealth's recommendation?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to sentencing. We recommend probation, 1 year, 24D program.
So the standard that everybody else gets on a first-time OUI?
Certainly.
Okay.
She
Brennan's
says that
a
on the
decent-
record. She says that on the record. So the first time everybody gets,
Yeah.
and I mean that's pretty wild. I got to shout my guy again, Michael Del Signor. That's exactly what he said would happen.
We ask that you be treated no differently, no better.
So I'm happy to do it. All right, thank you all.
1 year probation, 1 year probation on docket number 002, the lesser included offense of operating under the influence, 1 year probation. Thank you. The 24D program is.
BJ, please exit
Thank
the
you.
courtroom immediately.
I don't think there's going to be an appeal.
All right.
Yeah, I think they're
Goodbye.
okay with that. I think they're okay with that. Oh my gosh, how insane must they feel right now? I
Yeah.
mean, years and years, the roller coaster of a verdict and then not really a verdict. Oh boy, that's Karen Reed's dad, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine.
Great book, great movie.
Oh gosh, yeah, the interviews that are going to happen now. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be wild. And frankly, for the fight they had to put out and what they had to do in this case and what they had to go up against, from my perspective, it's all justified. They deserve it. They fought hard. They handled everything. Everything was thrown at them. I mean, this was a situation where I just can't imagine what Karen Reed and her family are feeling right now after this one of a kind case. Listen, we've gone and we've won when people are looking at life in prison, very serious charges, and we believe they're innocent. But the amount of media scrutiny, attention, life change forever, her personal business being out there. I mean, this feels like one of one, right? And with this investigation and the way this case was handled, like you said, this feels like the just verdict. And yes, a lot of people were drinking and driving that night. Was she also drinking and driving? People are like, they shouldn't take a compromise verdict. There shouldn't even be an OUI. Okay, fine. But Karen Reed probably agree. She made a mistake. She drove after drinking too much that night. It is what it is. First time DUI, 1 year probation, 24D program. Bada bing, bada bang. Move on with your life.
And you know, that's what was proven. I think we talked about this. There's no doubt she was drunk driving that night. You know, all the other stuff's different, but her statement that she probably had too much to drink and she shouldn't have been driving. She said that herself. And the voicemail and the bars that they went to. I mean, hey, it's a just verdict, and I can't complain about it.
Yeah, I really think it is. And I think that, you know, everybody that hated on a lot of the lawyers watching these cases, you know, focusing too much on reasonable doubt or whatever it was. I mean, it was, like I said, if we would have tried this case here in Tampa and nobody ever heard of it, we would have been supremely confident about a not guilty verdict.
Right.
The reason is all the other stuff in this case is what dropped that percentage at all. And again, I thought, you know, there was still a 60% chance of a straight not guilty. We heard the first question. Immediately after that first question, I thought we would be in a scenario where we'd be in a scenario where we are right now, which is guilty on just the OUI. Yeah, and a lot of people are shouting out to John O'Keefe's family. I completely agree. Feels horrible for them. You know, it feels like it's just reopening a wound and not justice for John O'Keefe. And they're just not feeling closure. And that sucks. It's brutal. I feel horrible about that. But I think the people to blame, honestly, are law enforcement, are the cops.
Absolutely. because they did not do an adequate investigation. I think that made all the difference in the world. If they had been professional and done an adequate investigation, we'd have a different scenario. Maybe a different person would have been charged. I don't know. But I think that killed it, is the fact that they did not do a decent job. That's really killed this case. And I know we didn't talk about, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this much, but people I've seen online complain a lot about Brennan's closing argument. But I think Brennan did a decent job in his closing argument. He didn't have the same stuff to close as Jackson had to close. He had to deal with what he had to deal with. He did a decent job. I don't like the way he tried the case, the expert witnesses coming in the middle of the trial and changing their reports. Those kind of things were all kind of suspicious to me. But apparently the jury saw through all that and came up with, I think, the right verdict.
Yeah, and I really think it comes down to, just like jurors, sometimes you get entrenched in a side, you get entrenched in a discussion point, you feel like this is right and this is what should happen, and you hate everything on the other side, and you see it as an injustice, and I can understand that, and people were really personally invested in this, and from my perspective, I understand, right? And that's why we say give people as much grace as possible when they talk about these cases and they really start to, go off, because people are very passionate. They feel very entrenched in one side or the other and feel what's right and what should happen.
Yeah. I'm dying of curiosity when the jurors start talking and the jurors start being interviewed after this. I'm really dying to hear what really happened, because that's just such an unusual circumstance that it's killing me. I want to know what happened.
Yeah. If anybody sees interviews happening, let us know where they are. Kelsey's going to shoot it over to me, and we will start watching the interviews as they start immediately happening, which would be my guess. Would the sealed verdict fall under FOIA? No, it would be sealed. You wouldn't get that with a public record request, right? They'd have to seal it.
But what do you bet there's going to be some newspaper that's going to file a motion with the judge to try to get that unsealed so that they can write a story about it? But it's not a public record. And in fact, I don't even think they have that in Boston. I don't think they have public records like that.
Florida is like wide open.
Right. I don't think Boston's got the same thing.
What is your longest deliberation you've had, Dad?
Oh gosh, I've had deliberation lasted over a week. Well over a week.
How long was the trial?
Well, trial was close to 6 months. It was that really long trial, and deliberations lasted. Sometimes jurors, honestly, I think they feel that this trial took so long, and it really, they worked so hard. We can't come back with a quick verdict because it just wouldn't be right. So we've got to drag this on to make it look like we really went through everything, even though we know how we're going to vote. But yeah, I've had it go over a week, more than once actually. Remember the 6-month trial? That was a week jury.
Yeah, I mean, when a trial goes 6 months, it's hard for them to. How long was your closing argument?
Closing argument was probably about 3 hours. You got to realize that was a paper case. It was a large fraud case, and there were probably 30,000 documents in the case. So, there was a lot for the jury to look at when they went back to deliberate.
Can you shout out my brother Chase, who I've been catching up on all the Karen Read lore, and he's watching you now. What's up, Chase? Is it as simple as they messed up a mark on the verdict form? I mean, I really hope we get to see what was on that verdict form one day. I really hope. My mom is your biggest fan. She has been watching your videos nonstop. Shout to mom. Will we ever know the outcome of the sealed verdict? I mean, that is one of the things everybody wants to know at this point. Before they announce they have a verdict, should AJ have gone to the Commonwealth with a plea offer of 6 months probation for OWI to avoid another hung jury or another trial? At this point, I feel like nobody had anything to lose. They were just going to see what happens. What do you think? What do you think, Dad?
Oh, no. Oh, I don't think they should have. I mean, come on. There's no deals after you do a trial like this and the jury's out. No deals.
What do you think about Brennan? At the end, he could have tried to push for harder. He didn't. He took his loss like a man. He offered her what everybody gets offered. The same thing with Judge Cannoni, and she even announced it. So you're going to give her what everybody else gets on a first-time OUI. What do you have to say about that? I think that's important to mention too.
Well, like I said before, he was a gentleman. That was a professional, gentlemanly thing to do. Not be a jerk about it, but just go ahead and do the right thing. And he did the right thing. So for all the negatives I might have said about Brennan in the way he did his way he handled the defense case, I think that he did the right thing here, and you got to respect him for that.
I do too. And you know what? I really hadn't thought much about what I thought he was going to do. I probably could have been convinced of either way. I definitely think he went too far in not doing some things during this trial and doing other things that prosecutors shouldn't do. And I stand by every individual thing that I said, that we said on these videos. But when he lost, he took it like a man. He took it like a lawyer. We lose. We lose all the time, especially criminal defense lawyers. And Brennan's a criminal defense lawyer. I realize he was prosecuting in this case, but we lose. You lose like a man. You know, you lose like a good loser.
Professional.
Professional. There we go. You lose the right way. You win the right way. You lose the right way. So props to him for taking his loss, offering what's appropriate, and letting Karen Read move on with her life. He lost. He gave it his best swing. I thought there were points that he did a really good job in trial, points where he did a really bad job in trial, and he lost, period. They beat him. It's over. So let it be over and move on. And Hank Brennan can now move on, and I'm sure he's going to get – what do you think? Do you think he's going to get more or less business from this loss?
Well, I think he's going to get more. I mean, you know, any publicity is good publicity. His name is going to be is a household name in Boston now. I would have liked to have seen – I'm kind of curious – if Brennan went over and shook the hands of the defense lawyers after it was over. I'd be curious if he did that and they shook his hand when it was over, because that's what they should have done. But I don't know if they did or not. But I would have liked to have seen that.
Somebody said Lally's probably feeling pretty good about himself right now. He had 8 people voting guilty. That's true, man. That's true. I mean, it's really wild. Can the Commonwealth appeal? The defense needs to get an expert for form and signature. Form seems Commonwealth had control in case of guilty.
No, Commonwealth can't appeal. It's over.
I think the verdict should be read by a singing telegram to fall in line with the rest of the way this trial has gone. Hello from Boston. Thank you for your coverage on this case, Peter. I've learned so much. Shout out to my coworkers, Aaron and Lauren. Free Karen Read. She's free. She's been leaving the courthouse every day, but not as a free woman. Today, she left as a free woman on probation. What were you going to say?
A thought came to my mind after that last question. Can you imagine if the jury walked in and gave the judge the verdict inside a red Solo cup? I mean, you know, something like that, just to add a little humor to the verdict in the case.
Well, I'm wondering what they say if they are interviewed, which my guess is everybody's going to want to interview them.
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to say anything? What could they possibly say you think that could get them in some hot water?
The jury? Yeah, we did our own research. I went to the crime scene in order to see what it was like. They had done stuff like that. Or I talked to some of my police friends for them to tell me about these experts and see whether these experts were good or not. Or I talked to some people that knew Proctor, and for them, those are the kind of things they could do, things that were outside of the evidence presented in court. That's what they could do to screw things up. Otherwise, leave it alone. But I got to be honest with you, unless they do something really outrageous, these lawyers and the Commonwealth, everybody wants to leave this case alone. They really, I think that this case, they've got fatigue.
I think it's just if you had a runaway juror, like somebody who lied to get on the jury, they were free Karen Read. That's really, I think, the only thing that's really going to upset this apple cart. What's up, Catherine? OUI is operating under the influence, just like a DUI, basically. Crystal's like, this is like my Super Bowl. If Karen Read is found not guilty, will anyone look at the police department and a role might have in John's death? So that's a very common question I get all the time, Dad. Now that it's not guilty for Karen Read, do you think they're going to investigate other people in this case and try to prove a case against somebody else?
No. And the reason I don't think that is not because they couldn't find somebody else. It's because it'd be kind of tough to convince and say, beyond a reasonable doubt, this guy is guilty, when a couple of months ago you said, this guy is guilty. So how can you prove someone's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt when you had evidence that you say proved that this other person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Doesn't that create a reasonable doubt just by definition? So I think that this issue is over. I feel sorry for the family because they'll never really know.
Skittle said, my hubby wanted me to let you know Melissa from Boston Hot 96.9 gave you a huge shout out today, Peter. Thanks for all you do. Yes, she was down there. and was telling me that she was talking to some people that watch the channel. So what's up, Melissa and Hot 96.9? I think we're still going to be talking this week. I'm still going to be talking to Ted Daniel tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be going on Boston 25 at some point, but we will see. It's been a really wild ride getting down to my Boston roots that don't exist, but I feel like it's kind of like my second home now at this point.
You know what? Think if you, Peter, if you took a trip to Boston, and be curious, if you did a weekend trip to Boston someday and just walk down the street, I wonder how many people would recognize you.
We've been talking about going there for spring break. We like to go to big cities and like just, tour around and see all the sights. Maybe we'll head up to Boston. I think I'll go to Boston and just see what happens. I mean, that would be pretty crazy at this point. People are saying we need to open an office there because we get a lot of calls from Boston now for different cases. Wonder if we will see any expression from Judge Canoni's face when she opens the verdict. I didn't notice any. Did you?
No.
Peter, can
And
you
I was
represent
looking.
me? What'd you say?
I was looking.
Can you represent me against the Commonwealth and the jury for undue pain and suffering? It's not a cognizable claim. 44,000 people watching and only 9.4 thousand likes. Ridiculous. Hit the like. Yes, everybody hit the like button. Hit that like button if you haven't already. I can't believe how invested I've become in Karen's trial. It's hard to watch the botched investigation and to know that even with our justice system, it has come down to this.
Yes.
I'm a preacher and watching in the background of my office. Hey, I think that's a first. I know there are some pastors that watch that I'm friends with that text me, but just like a random preacher text me watching from their office. That's awesome. Today's adrenaline boost / tummy ache brought to you by the Hunter fans. Shall we go out to celebrate with drinks at the waterfall? No. Yeah, definitely.
I wonder if that helped their business.
There's nothing negative about them really, right?
Well, they got a lot of publicity.
Defense did a phenomenal job to get this verdict. Why don't you talk about how you would kind of break down or grade the defense's work as a whole in this case?
Well, they did a terrific job. I think they did a great job. I think Jackson's closing was excellent. He did a good job of compartmentalizing his closing into groupings as he went through. He talked about one particular issue, then moved to the next issue, then moved to the next issue. I could spend a lot of time on Jackson's closing. He tried to bait Brennan. He asked Brennan some questions in his closing, but Brennan really didn't fall for the bait. I give him that he did his own closing the way he wanted to do it. It did not change his closing based on Jackson's closing. Their real key, frankly, they found great experts. I am totally impressed by their experts. Our experts found them. You're right. But the experts just were phenomenal. Think of what kind of defense they'd have if they didn't have the experts. They'd have no defense. So the experts were just phenomenal, and they were worth every penny. Unlike the Commonwealth expert, who was way overpaid, in my opinion. In fact, I think Jackson in his closing said $400,000 for. I think the word he used was kindergarten. I think blue paint kindergarten project. And so $400,000 for a blue paint kindergarten project. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a battle. It turned out to be a battle of the experts, and the defense won, and they had better experts and did a better job with their experts.
Yeah. So first off, Rob from Lawn Lumber said he was in the chat. I don't know if he's still in the chat because he texted me earlier. I didn't see it because I had so many text messages just destroying my phone. So I didn't want to look over. He always says he likes watching when me and you are on together. He talks about his relationship with his dad and stuff too, which is always cool. Then I was going to say, so we posted the first clip of the FACDL presentation. It was just like a minute and a half clip. And one of the big parts of it that, people were talking about and interested in is these like world-renowned experts from across the country reaching out to lawyers in these high-profile cases, wanting to be a part of it. And a lot of times in the past, when you've had a high-profile case or we've had a high-profile case and people flood in with emails, usually it's kind of like wild and not anything we'd be interested in. That's becoming very different. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I have gotten experts or witnesses that have heard about the case and called me up and turned out to be really worthwhile. I mean, that does happen. And that's a real benefit to high publicity.
This almost feels like, I just put it up on the screen. It almost feels like some kind of Super Bowl party.
Or parade.
right? Yeah, parade. That's what I mean. Like the parade they do in the city after you win the Super Bowl. That's what this looks like to me.
You know what's curious though? I guess Jackson, but notice it looks like the president. I mean, they've got 4 black SUVs there. It just looks like the president's coming into town. Actually, 5. Looks like 5 black SUVs.
Sandy said it's over. Please sleep, Karen and lawyers. Thanks, jury, for your service. I don't think they're going to sleep yet. So why don't you talk about what it's like now, the type of calls they're getting, the decisions they're going to have to make now. And frankly, it could be different than, even 10 years ago when you'd win a high profile trial, the people that were calling that you'd actually want to go talk to. I have a feeling they might have a different list than many other high profile lawyers in the past.
Oh, absolutely. The list now includes all the social media where, it wasn't that long ago, nobody cared about social media and nobody talked to social media. And they were, you went to the big TV stations and, you went to NBC and ABC and CBS. And then it switched to streaming where you've got, Fox News and those kind of things. And now it's going to social media. Some social media gets a better listener than, MSNBC. I think 2 people watch MSNBC. And you've got all these people that are watching social media now. So now you pick and choose your social media that you go talk to and who you want to talk to. And because social media is, I don't want to say biased, but isn't exactly totally balanced all the time, you pick the ones you like the best to go on because they're going to be the friendliest when they ask you questions and talk to you. So I think social media is going to be who they're going to pick on social media to talk to. Even this last election, who was it that President Trump,
Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, all these guys had presidential candidates on. Even like Theo Vaughn would go from Trump to Bernie Sanders. I mean, the podcast world is providing a platform that was not there before, that does have such an important aspect on the community generally, on what people think and what they believe.
Right. So that's going to be your choices, where you go and whether it's going to be your kind of people, that where you go and you decide who you're going to talk to. So that's going to be a number 1 issue they're going to have. Number 2, there's a book, somebody's going to come after them for book deals, movies. You've really got to pick the right person. So, I guarantee you that there is a media consultant that they have. And there's going to be somebody that's a professional person who handles signing up for movies and books and that kind of stuff, an agent. So they're going to have an agent. It's a different world today because you've got so many more options than you used to have. Let's face it, it's a wild west on the internet.
Yeah, no, and I also think that there's been so much coverage of this case and they've had people following all of it. They probably know where they want to go and where they don't want to go. And there's probably a lot of reasons where they're going to choose to go and choose not to go, which I think is their prerogative, right? They put in the work. They created this defense. They built it. They presented it and they won with it. And from our perspective, like that's what criminal defense lawyers do. Easy peasy said, all that for an OUI. Norfolk County and Michael Morrissey should be absolutely ashamed. So what do you think of how's the DA feeling at this point?
I think they're beaten and that, quote, he thinks he did his best. I mean, let's face it, they brought in somebody from the outside to even try it the second time. So they did their best. They tried their hardest. If you're, again, a gentleman and a professional as a DA, you're happy, justice was done. The case is over. I move on to my next case. And that's really the way he should feel. He shouldn't feel like, this was a horrible thing and he shouldn't be depressed about it for the next couple of weeks.
I think he should be, the way he's handled this case.
I don't
He is the one who forced this ball that shouldn't have been pushed down the road. He was making videos and saying things publicly that were absolutely inappropriate for a sitting DA to make. I think this one should hit him hard where it hurts. Hank Brennan is one thing, a hired gun coming in trying to prosecute the case. That fallout is what it is. But to me, Morrissey forcing this thing down the road when it was so obvious to anybody with a law degree, that's not what this is. And this is not what it should be. By the way, there's a huge storm coming through here. So hopefully it doesn't crap out my internet, but just FYI. Go ahead.
Well, you know what else too that I found interesting? Again, Kieran Reed's a prime example. Years ago, very few people would have known about the Kieran Reed case. It would have been a local case. People in Boston, that would have been about as far as it went. I don't think it would have gotten the national coverage and the audience without people like you. Now you've got, 500 and what, are you at 510 yet? But,
Something.
yeah, 500,000 subscribers. So it's people like you that have made this a nationwide sensation, and the other YouTubers that are doing this have made Kieran Reed a nationwide sensation. Otherwise, this would have been a local issue in a local case.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily made it national or anything like that. I think a lot of people were doing that before I ever even knew what this case was about. And everybody watching asked me about it, which is why I started talking about it. At least that's how I see myself in this prism, is when people have questions about something, that's when I'm going to talk about it. I don't know, chicken or the egg, I guess, in some of this. But it's definitely a new world. It's a new world. And all the lawyers at the FACDL meeting, I shouldn't say all of them, a lot of them were learning about something new. At the old guard that just is used to doing things a certain way, it's just different now. It's just different now, period. And everybody's got to get with the changing times. Like Will Smith said, in just the two of us.
Yeah, but when I would sit, and I told you this, at those meetings and we'd have breakfast with a bunch of, again, old guard guys, like, it surprised me how many people were talking about Kieran Reed. Here we are in Florida, the criminal defense lawyers in Florida, and Kieran Reed was the topic of conversation at breakfast, and I didn't bring it up. Other lawyers brought it up. So a lot of people had a lot of interest in this. And I don't think it would have been this way 10 years ago.
Yeah, PF said even the way they read that verdict for count 2 was so confusing. I agree. And what was interesting to me is it's almost like the foreman wanted to make sure he said not guilty for the higher ones, and he was going to say not guilty 3 times before he said guilty. I feel like that's what he wanted to do, and that was part of the confusion. I think it might have been quicker if they would have had those not guilty verdicts. I also want to stop for a second and say, Ben, I respect the verdict. Too many issues with the investigation gave the doubt. I still think in reality she hit him, but it is what it is. Again, Ben, respect. Glad you're here. Happy to talk to you about this case throughout the entirety of the case. And I hope that you join us in the future when we talk about these cases. I appreciate your perspective, respect your perspective, and respect this comment as well. Ben was kind of vocal that he thought she was guilty, and some of the evidence made it obvious that it was her, but also agreed the investigation was an issue.
See, you heard about the verdict, and they read the verdicts. In Florida, and of course, we know Florida the best. That's why we use it as an example. In Florida, what it would have been was, we the jury find the defendant guilty of DUI, the lesser included offense. And that's it. They wouldn't have said not guilty of the bigger one. They would have just said what they were found guilty of. And that was the lesser included offense, and made it simpler and more understandable.
Yeah, everybody does it a little bit differently. Coop,
right.
Thank you for the coverage, Peter and Papa George. Just graduated law school. One day I'll be the big lawyer bucks and drop some bigger super chats. Coop, congratulations. Get ready for a grind. Can the O'Keefe family sue the Canton Police Department?
Probably not. I'm sure they have immunity like any other law enforcement agency does.
So I think they could. They would have had to already probably put them on notice by now.
Yeah.
If they were going to do that, that would probably out there. They're probably past the statute of limitations on most of the civil actions they could have filed against them. So I think it's just highly unlikely. Unlikely. What'd you say?
No, I'm just saying that law enforcement, like all government agencies, has a certain immunity, and you just can't sue law enforcement agencies because they do a lousy job.
Or they'd get sued literally all the time. That's
right.
Basically what it comes down to. How long till the civil trial? I don't know. I haven't seen really a timeline on the civil trial yet, because the O'Keefe family is suing Kieran Reed. I know there's a bunch of questions in here that I'm going to get to later about how the OUI affects that. Will she have to move? Is she safe? I mean, that's a question I can't really answer. I don't know the answer to that. I would think she's safe. Seems like a lot more people supporting her than hating on her.
Does she still live in Canton?
I don't know. I don't know where she lives. A lot of people asking about the civil trial, when that's starting. I'll have to look. If you guys have info on it, send it to me. I've heard the case won't be reopened by the feds. Is that true? Or will the FBI look further into it? How would you think this not guilty verdict affects that, if at all, Dad?
I don't know if the feds. I don't think this closes the feds' case. The feds close their case when they want to close their case. It's up to them. The verdict does not affect whether or not they close the case or not. It's strictly up to them and what they want to do. I don't know if they want to get into this or not because it changed from corruption to incompetence. The first trial, they're actually trying to blame some law enforcement officers for actually doing the crime, the third party culprit. In this trial, they smartly, and from the very beginning, we said this, it was smart to just say it was a lousy investigation. There were other suspects they should have investigated and they didn't. And that caused a reasonable doubt for them not to do a good investigation. So I don't know if the FBI is going to do anything or not, but it's their timeline. They do what they want.
SU said, thank you for the phenomenal coverage of this case. Thank you so much, S. Hughes, for that super chat. Other people are asking questions about would celebratory vodka violate Karen Reed's probation, things like that. I don't know the terms of her probation, but usually no alcohol bars or clubs is part of the probation of a DUI. So I would assume it's something similar like that, right?
I would think. Again, got to realize this is Boston.
Yeah.
So keeping people out of bars might be a little tough in Boston. I don't know.
Especially keeping cops out of bars, right?
That's right.
I want to try to find.
Although I don't think any cops are going to date her anytime soon.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. Ashley said we'll be covering the civil case. I will if you guys are interested in it. Does the OUI automatically mean culpable in the civil case? Does insurance cover since guilty on OUI? So, all right, hold on a second.
Oh, here they come.
Yeah, but she just said Boston 10, but this is not on Boston 10. All right, let's do it on.
Number one is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team. Thank you.
So we want to see it reopened? Karen, we want to see the case reopened? Give a message to the jury. The case be reopened? No, the case cannot be reopened. This case is over. No, I mean,
Jackson's like, this case over. Kelsey said Boston 10 is better. So I will go over to Boston 10 and we will take a listen there. Let me swap this out.
To me, that's amazing you can do that.
I'm just a tech wizard. What can I say? All right, here we go.
That's great.
Convicted only of a lesser included charge of operating a vehicle under the influence. This crowd has waited a long time to hear from her. Let's listen in as well.
Number one is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team. Thank you.
So you want to see it reopened? Karen, you want to see the case reopened? Should the case be reopened? No, the case cannot be reopened. This case is over. No, I mean, the case is marching for someone else. I'm going to leave it.
So Jackson was assuming he meant the case against Karen Reed. I think the question was about the FBI investigation. Can that be reopened? I think that's what he was asking.
I'm going to leave it to Karen. Let her dad. Her dad has a comment. Let her dad make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I want to acknowledge the strength of our daughter Karen, the support of the entire Reed extended family. I want to acknowledge the greatest team of attorneys. Our first one that we found was David Yannetti. We added Alan Jackson and Liza Little. Barbara Alessi you know about, all right? It was a fantastic team, but we needed them all to defeat this. We thank everybody for their support from the heart. We love you all of the content providers who help spread the word. Thank you so much.
All of the content providers. I love it. That's probably how you would say it too.
No.
Let's do this.
Peter, I heard that she sold her house and just liquidated everything to pay for her defense. Did you know that? Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did hear she was doing things like that. I don't know, necessarily what all happened or what the end result was, but I was hearing things like that. Audit Trail Pro LLC said, as a fellow lawyer, I just want to say thank you, Peter. You are gifted at explaining the law and strategy without dumbing everything down or a hint of condescension. Cheers to you and your amazing dad. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I can't tell you how many lawyers have reached out, which is just crazy. And it's awesome. And I love it. And I appreciate it. Some of them have, constructive things to help me with, like, hey, this is how it is in Mass. Just like the lawyer I was talking about earlier did. And everybody's so complimentary and just nice. And I appreciate it. It is a lot, right? It's a lot. My dad always asks me every day, he's like, how the heck do you do this? Like, how do you do the work at the office and watch this trial all day and then talk about it for an hour or two? He also mentioned how long some of the streams were going. Right, Dad, throughout this, you were like, golly, this was almost 2 hours.
They got longer and longer.
There was a lot to talk about. Next trial, Peter, Amy said, any suggestions for dealing with withdrawal? Can ARCA launch a daily show for us? There's other stuff happening. Brian Koberger has a hearing right now. There's definitely other trials. I'm going to keep an eye out. You guys too. All right, let me back this up so we can hear what her dad says in this interview. Thank you for your coverage of everything, including Karen Read, Justice Today. Thank you so much, Linz. Let's take a listen to what Mr. Reed has to say here.
Free woman without her supporters, both financially,
These charges.
emotionally, because as we know, we have been, let's listen into her dad.
All of these charges, and we need to get our life back together, and we will. And I thank everybody in New England, everybody for their support and getting behind us, as you can see here today. Can you describe your emotion when your verdict was announced? What went through your mind? Tremendous thanks to Almighty God, Jesus Christ, and a relief, and thank you for our great Green Team. What do you think the difference was between this trial and the last one, Mr. Reed? Another year of information circulating in the public, and people are aware of what's happened. I gotta go. What's your message? What's the take?
William, he addressed the larger crowd there outside.
Yeah, I mean, elated. Like, again, on cloud nine, great, they won, but still, the way that their life has been changed, and certain things will be just more difficult forever. That's something they have to deal with as a reality.
Look at the crowd out there, though. I'm just amazed.
So talk about a not guilty verdict, right? Somebody is charged with a very serious, heinous crime that spends all this money on a defense team. You go and you win. What are some of the things they think about and talk about afterwards?
The lawyers or the
lawyers and the clients. Like, what are the conversations they're having afterwards?
Well, the lawyers for at least a day or so will be slapping themselves on the back and telling themselves what a great job they did and how thrilled and happy they are and how they couldn't have done it without the other lawyer, whoever it is they're talking to. And, just they'll be in the glory of the victory for a couple days. And then they've got to realize, okay, I've got to go back to real life now. I've got other clients whose cases have sat around and I've had continuances. I've got motions sitting on my desk for months now because I've been concentrating on the Karen Read case. So I've got to go back. I've got to go through the motions. I've got to go do depositions. I've got to get myself out of Karen Read out of my mind. And I've got to get these other clients in my mind. And that takes a lot of adjustment. Like, for instance, Jackson, he's from California, right? I remember right. So Jackson's got to go across country to California, and he's got to start his life and his practice again because he put everything on hold during this time. And his clients probably, though, however, are not upset because now they think, man, I got the greatest lawyer going.
They're the ones that have already paid the pre-Karen Reed fee.
That's right, the pre-Karen Reed fee.
It's like, yeah,
I've got the greatest lawyer going. So, hey, Jackson, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. You defend me because I can't find anybody better.
Time, sir.
That's right. So, so his clients aren't giving him any grief at all about this wait because they're waiting to have Alan Jackson represent them. So, but he's got to get back and do the work, and there's got to be a ton of work piled up. Plus, he's got to get his life back together. I know we talk about Karen Reed, and it is true. I mean, there's no comparison, but everybody's got a family, everybody's got a life, and everything had to be put on hold because that's the only way you could have tried this case. Because, I mean, like I said, things happen in the middle of trial, expert reports happen in the middle of trial, all sorts of things are going on. What was the total amount? Was it 6 weeks? Did it come out to 6 weeks?
I think it was 8. I think it was
8
8,
weeks?
including this week that they were deliberating. You guys tell me. I think it was 8.
So you've had no family for 8 weeks. You haven't really had any social life for 8 weeks. And you've been working every night for 8 weeks. So now you can get a good night's sleep. You can rest, relax, and get back together with your family. You've got to reestablish family life. People don't realize that again, I know it's no comparison to someone facing life in prison, but lawyers who do the right thing, their life stops in a case like this.
All right. I don't know who. I think we should listen. Might as well. They're doing an interview. Let's see what he has to say. And then I want to make sure we focus on also the client, because the client's life changed forever when you're accused of something like this. Even if it's not guilty, there are tons of people in town locally, even if it's not a famous case, that still think you did it. Or like, oh, they wouldn't have even got arrested if they didn't do it. They just had a great private lawyer who got them off because they have money. That's what a lot of people think as well. And it's hard to come back from sometimes.
And I've got a good comparison for that too.
Okay, well, hold on to that. Let's listen to this interview.
But there were chanting lock up Jen at one point, a reference to Jennifer McCabe. Oh, I guess we're taking Karen Reed.
Beyond words. Beyond words.
All right, this is Karen Reed's brother, the chat's saying.
So proud of our legal team. I'm 3-4 years older than Karen, and so I've seen my parents aging through this process. My dad's 77, my mom's 75. We wanted this to end in the greatest possible news, and I think we got that today.
Can your family go back to the way it was before, or has this changed you?
I think it's changed you forever. I mean, take a look at this crowd. How can it not? But yeah, hopefully within time. Yeah.
Did you guys say anything to the O'Keefe family? They didn't make any comment. Do you have any?
No, just sorry for their loss. We've always felt that way. John was a good man. I knew John, and we cared about him very much.
Please need us. Thank you. Your piece on the ground.
You've just been listening to Nathan Reed. That is.
Okay. Taylor said, I want to hear both sides answer specifically if, what, how, who. Did social media chats, recaps affect or alter their day-to-day strategy? That'll be an interesting question, but go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was going to give you an example, and you met the lawyer, a friend of mine at the FACDL who represented Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
High-profile case.
Jose Baez. Everybody's going to assume it's Jose Baez.
It was not Jose Baez.
Yeah.
Okay. It was his co-counsel.
Right.
Cheney Mason.
Right.
And so Cheney represented Casey Anthony. She was acquitted. However, her life was in such shambles, she had to leave town and go somewhere else because she couldn't walk down the street. She couldn't get a job. All that stuff, the publicity hurt her life. And in this case, I don't know whether it's going to hurt or help her life, or whether or not it's better to go start a life somewhere else. This kind of publicity is going to have an effect on you one way or the other. It can't help it.
And we've had clients that have absolutely had to move afterwards. We've had clients that could never work in the field that they were in because it was a certain professional field that doesn't take kindly to those kinds of accusations even. So sometimes you just can't come back from it.
You can't. It's very hard.
Will we ever know who did it? I don't think we'll know beyond a reasonable doubt.
I don't think so.
This case exemplifies the importance of televising all court proceedings. Transparency is crucial. Those proceedings that are not televised or not open to the public to receive minimal scrutiny. Thank you for taking the time to help us understand. Yeah, and Cheney Mason came up to me after the presentation as well, and he's like, yeah, great job. You know, I appreciate all you did and everything's different now. And then he's like, hey, I've got this really great book for you. You should read it. You know how I know it's great? I wrote it. And then he handed me the books. I thought that was funny. Wonder how Lally feels tonight. The only guilty is witness he handled, and he got more for much less. Want to know what the jury thinks of Hank. Yeah, I think they're going to be asked those questions. I really do. Is there a scenario where Karen gets a discount following the verdict with the notoriety gain? I see GoFundMe. So people have said she hasn't been paid. My guess is she is going to give them rights and payment over any book, movie, series, whatever deal comes from this, which I think it will, because this case is literally unbelievable. So I think they will. I think it fits better as like a series on Netflix or something, right? Doesn't it fit better for that? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, and you know what else too? Speaking engagements.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of speaking engagements going to come out of this as well.
What happens with the sealed verdict form? Can defense look for discrepancies? It's going to be part of the record. We'll see what happens to it in the future.
They're not going to care.
What?
They're not going to care.
Yeah. Class acts, all of them. No gloating or embellishing, just pure gratitude. Yeah, I do not think they're going to appeal that DUI verdict.
No.
I want to watch Kohberger trial, but I am new to it. And your playlist is 130 videos long. Any chance you can do a quick recap video before it starts? John Kelsey, did we do a case-by-case snapshot on that? I think we did a 1-minute quick one. And then maybe I'll give some kind of, whoa, I don't know if anybody else can hear that thunder, but it's rolling out there. The lightning striking. But yeah, we can probably give some kind of wind up to one of our other videos. Do you think a new investigation will happen, or will John's case go cold because the prosecutors felt they had the right person? Thank you, Peter. I think the latter. Sam with the JD and LM. I've been following this case with this channel since just after it started when my dad was in hospice. Now today will be 1 year anniversary of his passing and the day Karen Read was exonerated. Jules, thank you so much for being here, and sorry for your loss of your dad. Timing is cool sometimes, you know. On social media point, between Lawyer You Know and EDB, there are roughly 80,000 people watching the verdict. Oh, if she's live, she has incredible amounts of reach and people watching as she live streams everything. I'm usually doing recaps. So when we live stream, it's usually hit or miss. Yeah, 30,000 people from YouTube, 37,000 on Twitter right now. It's wild how many people are actually watching this at one time. Like literally millions of people around the world have been following this case. And to me, it's wild to think that there's no celebrity appeal to it. Do you believe there will be changes in Canton law enforcement? So much reasonable doubt created them. Looks like corruption. What do you think, Dad?
I think there definitely will be change. There's got to be changes. Didn't we get a report? Didn't they?
Yeah, they did an audit.
Yeah, they did an audit, an outside agency. There's got to be a ton of changes. And I think, if I remember right, the current chief was not the chief when this all happened. I think they have a new chief of police as well in Canada.
I think they might be on their third since this.
Yeah, it's not the same one. I remember that. We talked about that. It's not the same one. So yes, there's absolutely going to be change. We can. Hopefully they'll find some evidence kits somewhere that they can use.
Yeah, that would be nice. Pita, what do you think about the reputation of Aperture in the wake of this? I mean, I don't know. I can't say like what their general reputation is. I would never use them. I mean, it might seem sad, but I don't think I could in good conscience use them at this point as an expert ever. And they work in my field and type of cases with truck accidents, car accidents, things like that. What do you think, Dad?
No, we would never hire them. It wouldn't be worth the money, at least in my opinion.
But I mean, what do you think as far as like their reputation nationwide? Do you think that it took a hit or no?
I think it took a hit for those people who know about this case. That's the thing.
Everybody.
See, these kind of things, you know, like there's 24-hour news cycles. That's what people talk about. People have short memories. And as time goes on, this is going to fade in the background and people won't remember that Aperture was the expert for the prosecution.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. People write Greek stuff all the time. I can't read it. I don't know if you can see this comment. I love when you have, it's probably
Papadragos, but it's spelled it wrong. That's all right.
Okay, close enough though. Can you imagine the faces and the conversation between the McAlberts right now? It's probably not great. Will this create case law, you think? No. I mean, there's not going to be anything really appealed up since it's not guilty. 8 months pregnant today. My stomach is in knots. Baby's just as excited as we are. I think she hit him. But the MSP botched the investigation. Feel terrible for John O'Keefe's family. Love you, Peter and Papa T. Yeah, I mean, regardless of what people think, if they don't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, I think we all kind of are feeling, not we all, a big percentage of us feel like this was still the just verdict. Brian B said, shout to John O'Rourke and Ben, class acts. Couldn't agree more. Absolute class acts. Both of them. It's hard to be in the minority, but they gave us a position, helped keeping everybody see kind of how you could see this stuff from both sides, which I always appreciate. Will she have to stay local and serve out probation? We're not positive in Massachusetts, but usually no. On just a simple DUI, you can, if you want to move, you can work things like that out. So what, do you have anything to say about that or no?
No, it's fine.
So what now? What about the civil case? Well, we'll see what happens in the civil case. I bet Dr. Russell is overjoyed that her observation testimony made a difference. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you see the video of Join DiPetro breaking a tail light in the parking lot earlier today with the car and leaving the scene? The irony. I did not see that. I did not. Did Papa Tragos just hint that the defense was reaching out to Peter for chat feedback? There was somebody that sent me an email that worked at one of the defense firm that said they were following all the YouTube channels and chats, which is not a surprise. That's what they should be doing. I did not speak to anybody on the defense team at all during this trial, or the prosecution team, or any witnesses in the case or things like that. If I did, usually I would just tell you guys that has not happened during a trial. People have reached out afterwards or before, or things like that, just to talk, whatever. I'm not like somebody asked me, one of the lawyers on a very high profile case coming up in Florida asked me if I do consulting on these trials. And I was like, no, I don't. First time sending a super chat to the guy that said she was guilty. How in the heck is she guilty if the plow guy was the best witness to say nobody outside and people dumping phones on a military base? Come on. Okay. Not sure exactly what that's aimed at, but I really enjoy it when you have your dad on. I think it would be pretty cool if you two routinely went through old high-profile trials and give us your opinions. I know I would tune in. We've talked about doing something like that. I specifically asked my dad if he wanted to and kind of make it a segment or something. We'll see if it happens. There's just so much new stuff happening every day, and we can watch it live. And I feel like that's a better teaching tool for me. I feel like I learn more and you guys learn more when I do it that way, but we'll see. Does this serve as collateral estoppel for any civil case brought against Karen Read? So no, this OUI does not mean that Karen Read is automatically going to be found liable in the civil case. Frankly, the fact that they won here, they're probably going to use the same arguments in the civil case and try to prove it under a lesser burden, which is just, more likely than not. But just because you were driving drunk doesn't mean you hit anybody, doesn't mean you caused the death of anybody. So just because she was driving drunk, also, there's not even a time that they found as far as when she was driving drunk. So from my perspective, they still have to prove that civil case fully. Okay. Boston 10 is now interviewing somebody else. Kelsey said, let me pull it up. All right, let's see here.
We want to speak here with Aiden Kearney, better known as Turtle Boy.
Turtle Boy, intimately involved from the jump. Let's see what he has to say outside of the courthouse.
You were inside of the courtroom as this came down. What was it like for yourself, and what was the feeling inside of the courtroom?
It was a surreal, emotional experience. That's the best way I can describe it. When you've invested so much of yourself in your life in one case for the last 2.5 years, become almost part of it yourself by getting your own charges with it, to finally hear those words, not guilty. I mean, I've been dreaming about this, man. I've been thinking about this for so long. But to finally hear them read out loud in court and see the emotion in Karen Read's team just leading up to it. There's 20 minutes in there of just intense feelings, like look of terror and scared, and then it was a happy ending. It was the most emotional. It was an emotional roller coaster, is how I would describe it.
As the different charges were read one by one, what were your feelings as the different ones were read aloud?
So when I heard not guilty with murder, I felt good with that, but I was expecting that because the last jury also acquitted her of murder. We knew that the second charge was the contentious one of manslaughter. And when he said not guilty of that, oh man. And I knew, and we all kind of inferred from the questions they asked yesterday that that was the one that they were stuck on, particularly count 5. And so when he said not guilty with that, I was just overcome with emotion. And then they said that the DUI charge was a conviction, and it just didn't even matter. It just didn't even care. No one cared because.
And frankly, that's people thought, oh, why would you ever want to give that as a concession? The defense said, don't just split the baby and convict her of something. They can say all they want. It was a strategic move to do. And by the way, we said it could end up being genius, and maybe it was, in order to get that compromise from jurors that wanted to convict her of something, and maybe it worked out exactly like they wanted to. I was talking about the fact that if it didn't work out, they should not be kicking themselves at night. It was a move that I think was worth taking, and I think it ended up really winning the day for them. What do you think about them adding that lesser included?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that they feel the same way right now. I'm sure that they're going back saying, oh, that was a genius move. We did the right thing. You know, we took a chance and it worked out. It was an excellent move. It was very smart. And yeah, it was the right thing. Sure.
Yeah. And I think that they probably were sweating it at some point. Like, is this the reason they're going to hang? Makes it a little more nervous, but
Who cares about a DUI from 3 years ago when no one was hurt? That's the key thing here, is that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. So if Karen Reed drove drunk and didn't hit him, what does it matter? If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, what does it matter? So to hearing those, and you knew at that point the third one was going to be an acquittal.
And lastly, what would you say to those who feel like John O'Keefe still hasn't received justice?
Well, all of these people here think John O'Keefe hasn't received justice because the people who murdered John O'Keefe are out there. They're the McCabe's and the Alberts, and John O'Keefe went into their home and never.
what did I say about this DUI conviction? I said, if there's a DUI conviction, you better believe that a lot of people are still going to be pushing conspiracy. We know who did this. They're still out there, cover up. And that's exactly what it did, because frankly, the jury said it was not Karen Reed. Karen Reed did not hit John O'Keefe with this car, or at least the Commonwealth did not prove that. So it leaves all of this discussion still open. So, I mean, it's still out there. And that's why the DUI conviction was such a big deal and would feel like such a big win for this defense side.
Came out of it alive, and they threw him on the lawn like trash. So I would hope that all of us can unite at this point, now that Karen Reed has been exonerated, that all of us can unite and demand that the Alberts and the McCabe's and Brian Higgins be held accountable for what they did to John O'Keefe.
Aiden, thank you for your time.
Malcolm, thank you.
A lot of
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen personally. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. They'll see. I mean, we'll see what exactly ends up moving forward on it, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I just think nobody can really prosecute and win that case, frankly. But
I realize that who was saying it, but I think it's kind of risky to say things like that, to name specific people.
He certainly takes risks.
Yeah, to name specific people responsible for the death, that's a risky thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been screaming it from the rooftops from the jump, right? And a lot of people know about this case because of Turtle Boy. His antics are not the same way we would do it, and it's definitely not the mouthpiece that I would say does it always the way that you would want it done. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think that there was a lot of smoke to all the problems in this case, and it came out in front of the jury, and the jury saw it. They weren't tricked by it. They weren't overwhelmed by feeling sympathy that an officer lost his life, because I do think there are some jurors, we've had some jurors we've worried about things like that with as well, and they instead were able to look at the evidence, look at the proof or lack thereof, and come to a decision, which is all you can ever ask from a jury.
Right. Instead of no decision like the first jury.
Right, exactly. I was on an M case in Arizona recently. The bailiff helped us so much, answered a lot of these questions on the form for us. They're not supposed to. Bailiff is definitely not supposed to be answering questions that you have. If you have to go, you can, Dad. I'm going to run through the rest of these questions here.
I can say a little bit.
Okay. Me and my friend sending love from Poland. How's long to get a verdict? Me and the wife and mom are watching intently. Some of these are from before, so I apologize. We're catching up on some of them now. We could all pitch in and get them a more interesting fan, retractable or something. Thank you, Maxwell, for the super chat. Do I go into Costco with my AirPods or wait in my car? Absolutely watch while you shop. Absolutely knock out two things at once. I'm such a multitasker. Chat, chill. A little patience goes a long way. We could all use this throughout this entire process, I think. I think we could all use a little of this. I'm going to throw up. Everybody was very nervous waiting. Derek, Peter, I met you at cheer competition last season, and my wife, and I watch every day. Thanks for all of the info and the breakdowns. Not guilty. Coming in. Yes, Derek, I remember it vividly.
Hey, I want everybody to know that Peter does a great job at cheering. He's on a cheer team, and he really does well. He's the guy on top.
The Flyer, they're called Flyer. Cheer dads. I think not guilty, but curious if the verdict is 3 not guilty. Does the Commonwealth have any sort of appeal rights because of the false alarm verdict? No. Right?
No.
Yeah, that ain't gonna
It's
happen.
over. It's over.
Hi, Peter. My first super chat and live. Oklahoma personal injury attorney here. Thanks for all that you do. I love it. I love it. So weird. The Long Crime stream says false verdict report, and Court TV says verdict in. Well, we know the answer now. Turtle Boy said Alan Jackson is pacing around by himself, cheeks puffing in and out. He's deep in thought. Never seen him like this. Honestly, like, unless you experience it, you can't explain it. You can't explain the feeling. Like, we can say nervous, we can say anxious, we can say adrenaline come down. Control freaks, like a lot of lawyers, and Alan Jackson probably is, at least when he's trying a case. When you no longer have control, it's brutal. It's brutal. Can we get lawyer, a stress ball? So I've had multiple stress balls and broken them. Is that a normal thing or not? I don't know. My mom tells me it's not. I don't know if it's a conspiracy that somebody got cold feet. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Hi, Peter and Dad. Thank you so much for being here. She said, or she has paid the price of an OUI 1,000 times. Please, not guilty. I don't think it's going to be that difficult of a run for her at this point with the probation from the OUI. I really don't. This verdict is like Schrodinger's cat. I don't know what that is. Do you?
No.
I hate when this happens, and I feel like I should know what this is. A thought experiment in quantum mechanics that illustrates the concept of superposition. Okay. I'm too dumb for this comment. Sorry. Welcome to the verdict, Hokey Cokey. This whole trial has been sus. I tend to agree. Lawyer, gang assisted in her defense. She better do an interview with you. I will not hold anything against anybody on that defense team if they never speak to me again. I realize they've got a lot going on. Would love to talk to any of them. I would just love to talk too, even if they don't want to come on and do an interview. Would love to talk to the people involved in that, because this was such an interesting team, how they formed it, put it together, what they came up with, and how wild of a change. Like, Dad, talk about what it is to try an entire case and come back with a completely different strategy in trial number 2. Like, how often does that happen?
Well, it doesn't happen often, but again, I think what we saw is, I think the experts made the difference in trying it in a different way the second time around. Number one, the experts made a difference. These experts were, from what you're telling me, remember, I didn't see the first trial, but from what you're telling me, these experts came across much better.
No, it was. Sorry, everybody's going to get annoyed at me interrupting you, but whatever. Let me interrupt you, say this, and then you can finish your question. They did not necessarily come off better. It was more depth and breadth to what they were allowed to testify to, and a different angle, right? Like, they called so many witnesses and so many cross-examination questions trying to prove a conspiracy and cover-up, and they really flipped it. Like, it was a completely different, maybe it was an unfair question to you since you didn't watch the entire first trial, but just play this hypothetical with me as a criminal lawyer trial expert. Like, you try a case with one theory, and then you get a retrial and you completely change your theory. They were always talking reasonable doubt, but it was very different. How unusual is that? I want to change the question a little bit.
All right. Maybe they realized it didn't work the first trial and thought about, we've got to try something different. We've got to do things differently. And I think Brennan also may have dictated a lot of the defense case. Because Brennan tried a different prosecution case. Again, from what I know, Brennan's case was different this time. It certainly was shorter. He certainly didn't put on all the bad witnesses he put on last time. So he made a different case. And so they realized maybe things didn't work real well for him the first time, because they got that hung jury, that they needed to make some changes. Obviously it worked. I think they did. I think it was I think that they did a much better job. Both of them did a much better job in the second trial trying the case.
Yeah, I mean, now looking back, obviously all is A+. Everything worked great.
Right.
They're champions of justice, et cetera, which frankly I would have been saying either way. I think it was a much better trial either way. Barclay said, I truly believe both sides' lawyers watched your coverage. So many examples, like calling Proctor the boogeyman, that you informed their approach. That was kind of funny when I heard Brendan call him the boogeyman in closing. What happens if the jurors say no when asked, is this your signed and sworn verdict by Bev? The rule says that she could send them back there to keep deliberating. Anything else you'd expect if that were to happen?
No, you just read the rule. So, yeah.
Verdict clock stopped at 20 hours, 30 minutes on long crime. Last time was it 27 hours, 24 hours, or 27 hours? I can't remember what it was last time. How can they convict on a DUI charge if there was no connection per verdict to the Commonwealth charge of M2, vehicular homicide, manslaughter? Make it make sense. Well, because the jury found they proved the elements of an OUI in their case in chief. So that's how you can get there, because it's a lesser included offense. You have to get at least OUI in order to get to that manslaughter by OUI charge. At this point, I won't be surprised if they pull the jury and one of them says, it isn't my verdict. That's the only thing left to happen. Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Me neither.
No, it's never happened. No.
Peter, can you say hi to my kiddos watching with me? Jason, what's up? Haley, Brooke. Brooke is my daughter's name. And TJ, future attorneys over here. Awesome. Peter, my boss got me into this case almost 2 years ago, back when it was only Turtle Boy talking about it. Best boss ever. Shout out to Kat with a K. She gave them all a slip to go over the new one. Did they keep those? So wouldn't they need a new one? Yeah, I think we talked about this earlier. Boston Breezy, anyone else genuinely scared of what Paul O'Keefe might do when not guilty is read based on last year's behavior? I haven't heard any reports or anything like that, so I don't know if anything's happening there. Was John O'Keefe's family not there? I think they were there. But I'm not positive. I didn't see them in camera shot. Thanks for the stream. With a not guilty verdict, does John O'Keefe's M stay unsolved forever, or do they reopen an investigation? We've answered this a couple times. I don't think they're going to reopen the investigation. Crying, I am so happy for her. I hope she lives her best life. How many people in the chat think she's going to go to law school, become a lawyer of some sort, or a paralegal or something? Peter, you have to have AJ on. I would love it. Faith in the justice system restored. Going to miss PETA call-outs. Hey, we're still going to be here. And we'd love to have you too. Mr. Tragos and Peter, how does OUI affect the civil case? So we've talked about this a bunch. It's not going to prove a collision. So, and sometimes insurance companies won't even pay for DUI. But you can also get punitive damages if it's DUI with an accident in most jurisdictions. So it can become part of it, but it's not like they just won the civil case based on this verdict. Thank you for helping us all out with these weird cases. So who's responsible for ending John O'Keefe's life? Well, Turtle Boy had a guess. I don't know if you agree. I don't know if we'll ever know. What in the evidence do you think changed the turning point, turning it guilty from the last trial? What do you think was the most important thing in the not guilty verdict as far as the evidence goes, Dad?
The expert testimony. I think Russell was really key. And I think, what's her name? The other lady expert? Yes. I think those two were really, really the key in this. I know everybody's going to say ARCA, that ARCA was really important, and it was. But I think that Russell's handling of the cross-examination and the fact that she handled some of the key areas the defense was going to have trouble with, like the I hit him, I think that Russell was a real key.
Audrey said, I'm at the airport working and people cheered. I mean, I got a lot of text messages. It's like Florida State, wow. If Florida State either gets a big win or loss, my phone gets blown up in football. And that's what's happening right now with my phone with this verdict coming down. The Ant Sash said, Peter, I have a feeling we'll find out for sure, but I think your channel has made a difference for Karen Read, her defense, and public attention. Thanks for giving this case your attention. I appreciate it. I mean, we'll find out maybe. I'm so proud and thankful for the jury and the time they took to consider the evidence. So happy for Karen and team. Love to John's family. We have hit 2 hours, so it's our longest video of this entire trial, which is not unusual. The verdict usually is one of our longer videos. So everybody hit that like button if you haven't. And thanks, Dad, for hanging for the long run here. Hi from Ireland. Can you please tell me what the 24D program is? RIP, John. Your colleague Glues really failed you. So I can look into it, what the probation is, but usually it's just standard. You take classes, no alcohol bars and clubs, stay out of trouble. And it's very simple. It's nothing crazy, but I don't know what 24D, we don't have that specific name here. Crazy how excited, relieved we are with a not guilty verdict on the case that shouldn't even have been prosecuted. I'm happy for Karen Read. Disappointed it got this far. Aren't they going to ask about the first sealed verdict? What if it was guilty on OUI 2? Then it wouldn't matter. That's the best case scenario. Fair verdict and sentence, period. This is justice, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. We are so lucky to live in a nation where we have the system that we do. Thank you, Peter and Papa T. Yeah. So a lot of people that were, worried about losing their faith in the justice system, at least we can say maybe, we can say it shouldn't have gotten here, but the jury did the right thing today, which I think is really important and has to be celebrated. Why was John's family not there for the reading? I thought they were. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Will this case, some case law happen, you think? I don't. Why were the O'Keefes not there for the verdict? Maybe they weren't there. I thought I saw them there, but I could be wrong. Can you and EDB stream together? I can't pick between my two favorites. I would love to. I love talking verdict with Emily Baker. Peter, you have to interview the defense team on your channel. We'll see. I would love to. I know they're going to be busy, though, so nobody think there's any beef if they don't. I don't take any slight from it. I'm sure they've got bigger fish to fry. O'Keefe's family needs to go after the police department. I don't think it's going to happen. FBI indictments now, possibly. Dad, so we had a case. Somebody was wrongfully arrested. We ended up suing people over it, but not law enforcement. So do you think there's anything potentially with any witnesses or people that may have, lied to the police, that there could be some lawsuits here potentially? Because there is some immunity in reporting a crime and things like that.
Well, the fact that the judge said that there was enough evidence to go forward with the case, that, that establishes, that pretty much clears the law enforcement end of it. They're suing law enforcement because all they have to have is probable cause. And the fact the judge said there was enough evidence for probable cause means that, because again, you can't, you find somebody, you arrest somebody, you have probable cause to arrest them, but they're found not guilty. Think about every lawsuit that would come out of not guilty suing the police for arresting somebody. You wouldn't have any law enforcement. So the fact that the judge found that there was enough evidence to go forward kind of protects law enforcement from a lawsuit.
Yeah, and people get frustrated by that, but like you said, it's really the only way that it works. It's the only way that it works. Or again, nobody would take the job. Nobody would ever report a possible crime. They wouldn't be a witness against somebody that possibly did something. Now, perjury is real, and if they can go prove that, they could and should.
Right.
Gen Z Prob said, I work in a secure facility and usually can't watch live / join the chat. A few months ago, I decided to take off today for a long birthday weekend, 40 on Saturday. Happy birthday. What a fortuitous day to be in the chat. Thanks. Sometimes it just works out. Random prediction, at least one juror ends up with a moderately successful TikTok career. Well, they are younger, right? So that's a good point, Linz. I like that bet. Motion to cast Robert Downey Jr. as Alan Jackson. Who do you think would be the best Alan Jackson? I don't know.
That's a good
Me
question.
at 3 a.m., another gavel to gavel. Brian Koberger next. He's definitely on the list, but we got Adelson, we got Koberger, Richard, so many things going on. Baldonian, Lively. What happens with the case now? Do they investigate others? What is the process beyond this point? She serves out her probation, and like Jackson said, it's over. It's over. Can Karen Reed sue the Commonwealth to get some of her money back? I mean, if she could prove some kind of malicious prosecution, she would need more than what's publicly available right now, in my opinion. So for all the clowning on Lally, does he technically get the win over Brennan? I guess it's one way to look at it. So
bragging rights when he goes back to the office.
How smart was the defense to add OUI to the verdict slip? So happy she's able to walk out of the courtroom a free woman finally. Do you think we will see a press conference today? We saw a mini one, maybe not. So you've flown to like New York after a trial or whatever to do an interview. Maybe they're going to do something like that. I don't know.
There may be, you're right. It's a good idea. There may be something set up already for him to go on Good Morning America or Today's Show. That happens all the time. That they've set that up for the next day for them to fly to wherever to do those kind of interviews.
And they may have already been planning that.
Right.
Just knowing that I was talking to some different people about potentially doing some verdict coverage and how far in advance, they plan things like that. So my guess is there was a contingency plan. Like if it goes this way, then we potentially, might be flying up, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I think it was a very different trial, Ash. Karen Reed should text Higgins, well. Oh, no, she definitely should not be baiting people at this point, doing anything like that. Win appropriately as well. Does Karen get her car back now? Yes, right?
Yes.
Get her car back. It's no longer evidence. In my opinion, this case highlights the distance between the average citizen and a comprehensive understanding of the legal system. Can't stand to think about the number of cases that could have had different outcomes. Most not guilty. I don't know if I'd say most not guilty, but definitely it's a sad reality. It's a sad reality. So excited to catch you and Big Daddy live. Shout out to my friend Candace in South Korea who made me start watching. Serious question. What do you and Dad think was in the big duffel bag Brian Higgins moved early that morning hours? No clue. Literally no clue.
Peter, I think I'm going to go
Okay.
off to get some work done.
Thanks for joining me as long as you did. I will talk to you
All right.
later. Peace.
Enjoyed it.
Bye.
We'll see you all later. Bye.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Can Karen sue CPD or MSP? Can she? Will she? Probably not. Why not do a reenactment with a dummy, holding a glass, backing an MPH in reverse, the car was moving, and see the outcome? I think we know the answer to that, right? I don't think it would have been good for them. I'm at work and may have missed, but can John O'Keefe's family sue her for wrongful death now? Yeah, they still can. Civil and criminal, different burdens. What happens with the civil case now that she has been found not guilty? Wasn't it a wrongful death civil case? If so, how do they prove that now? They still can't go the same way. This jury had beyond a reasonable doubt. It's very different than greater weight of the evidence, more likely than not. And I'll tell you, we have had civil cases where they have not won the criminal case or not even pressed criminal charges, and we've still won on the civil side. So it's not a guarantee. This case, different. They've got a pretty good argument. Do you think now they would consider changing the jury instructions, or will they say it worked how it was supposed to? Lawyers have a tendency to do that. It's like, hey, that's why we write it this way, folks. Pat on the back. How about a wrongful death suit against the homeowner? I heard you do some civil work. Yeah, it's not likely to be successful here. So impressed with the shift in the defensive strategy from the first trial. Dream Team, please shout out my friend Posey, aka Buster Posey fan. Buster Posey, probably my favorite. Actually, not really. Because I've gotten to know somebody that was a stud baseball player at Florida State, and they're now my favorite Florida State baseball player ever. Have the O'Keefes filed a civil suit, or did they have to wait for a verdict from this trial? I think they already filed it and it was stayed, meaning paused. Peter, will anything Karen says to the media impact civil suit against her? It can be something they can bring up and impeach her with when they depose her there, because there's no more Fifth Amendment right. There's no risk of criminal prosecution. So what are we going to watch all day now? I have a feeling you guys will find whatever is next and let me know. If she loses a civil trial, can't she lose everything? I mean, money, not liberty. Peter, does Karen still need to be careful what she says to the media for the upcoming civil trial? I would always be careful what I said to the media. Unfortunately, I think John O'Keefe's family filed a civil suit hoping to prevent Karen Read financially from recovering media book offers. Did I miss something? Is there going to be a civil trial? What can they actually go after her for? Money. Do you think we'll hear about FBI investigations now? I don't. What will happen with the civil lawsuit pending with John O'Keefe's family against Karen? I'm crying for her. I truly am. It will continue moving forward. Probably discovery, depositions, or they could drop it. I don't know. Could jurors in the future Aperture expert cases be asked about whether they watch this trial as a possible disqualifier? They can ask about it, and if it has an effect on how they view Aperture potentially. Even the reading of the verdict was confusing. Why isn't there a standard verdict form that involved lesser included charges? There is. It's just confusing. If he was hit that hard, would they have signs of bruising on the arm? I would certainly think so. Does Karen Read get the Lexus back? Can prove TL damage. Oh, taillight damage. I don't know if they can prove it, but she can get her Lexus back. Peter, wrap up with winners and losers of Karen Read 1 and 2, i.e. Proctor, Devers, Welcher. Losers, winners, Arca, Doc, Russell, Lucky. So we've done this a lot. I mean, definitely the winners are the lawyers. Karen Read, Arca, and Russell, and La Posada. Losers, Brennan, and Aperture. That's most that's most winner and loser, biggest winner and loser. Dad, you can leave. You don't have to wait on for it to like load. I don't know if you're still watching, but you can leave completely, Dad, if you want. He's sitting backstage because sometimes he's got to stay on for them to for it to like upload. What is actually possible regarding more evidence, more truth, and more potential for Higgins Albert? Just feds have that power, or will we never have answers? My guess is we'll never have answers. If we do, the feds will have to get it. Sorry, SAHM, stay-at-home mom. My bad. I've never seen that. Your coverage analysis is awesome. I feel like my legal mind can finally see through all of the Bluey and 5th grade U.S. history homework. Hey, mom gets some too, right? Mom gets some TV time too. Would she use the same lawyers for the civil trial? So usually your car insurance will hire you civil defense lawyers, but you can hire your own privately. It's up to them. Thank you and Papa T for being committed to teaching us. Understanding our justice system is imperative to our country's future. Couldn't agree more. I hope you will also cover Sandra Birchmore case. It will be wild to see some of the same characters in the prequel. I agree, and I will if you guys are interested. You guys drive what we cover. What you're interested in is what I talk about. Peter and Papa Tragos, thank you so much for holding our hands through this roller coaster. Can she get time served for probation after being on bail for 3.5 years? So she didn't get any jail time. So it wouldn't be time served. It's just going to be a year of probation. A lot of times you can get early termination of probation if you finish all of the prereqs and everything that you need to do on the probation. Thank you for covering this trial, Peter and Pops, Pops and Peter. Probably Judge Bev is the saddest. I highly doubt that. Donnie Wahlberg to play Turtle Boy in the Netflix series. I'm a big Wahlberg fan. You think Dever still has her job? Yes, I do. She did what she was supposed to do, right? Massachusetts resident here. Will you follow Sandra Birchmore case? More victims of Massachusetts police corruption need justice. Yes. If there's stuff to cover, right? Hold on. Let me text him here. Yes, you can shut down. Okay. That would have been funny. Thank you, PETA and Papa T. Y'all give a bright light into the world of law. Very much enlightening. Yeah, it is kind of can be a dark world, right? I always talk about how it's a broken world. So to shine a light is always a good thing. In y'all's experience, is there a way that civil suits typically go when there's been a criminal trial with a not guilty on most serious charges? Sorry if it's a dumb question. You and your dad are wonderful. Not dumb at all. Sometimes it can affect it. Sometimes it can't. I would think, with this proof, if I was the insurance company, this might be one I fight. Or you say, like, we'll offer you an amount of money because it's not worth it. We're going to have to pay our lawyers potentially. There's so many different ways it could go in a civil case. Thank you both for great coverage as always. What can the O'Keefes do now to get some justice for their family? Happy for Karen Read as the right verdict was rendered, in my opinion. I mean, it's hard to say because I feel like the O'Keefes felt like justice would have been convicting Karen Read, so it's hard to say. First comment on a live ever. Thank you, Peter, for your coverage. Watched both trials and followed you since something from Dubai. Turtle Boy is the reason we all know of the case. It's good when things turn out the way they should. I agree. Thanks for your insight, Peter and Mr. Tragos. Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. And I will do the same to anybody that got angry about any of this coverage and comes back and is like, I thought you were so stupid on Karen Read and, in Karen Read's team's pocket and whatever anybody said. And if you want to come and talk about cases and share your view and how you'd look at it and what decisions you would make as a potential juror in another case, you are welcome here to talk about it. Try to be kind, try to be nice, try to see things in ways that we can discuss and learn together. You will be welcome back here with open arms and no grudges held. As a prosecutor myself in a different county, I think justice has been served. In Portugal, the prosecution has even the duty to ask for dismissal or acquitting in a case with no proof has been produced. Way to go, Peter. That's how it's supposed to be here too. It's how it's supposed to be here too. And thank you so much for this comment. Sorry if you already answered this, but is Karen now able to sue the Commonwealth? I mean, able to, and will she ever be successful? Unlikely, but maybe they can find something. I mean, I think they need more than we publicly know. That's what I've been saying. Bev didn't dismiss the jury nor thank them. I didn't see the ending, so I don't know if she did anything off camera. Did you see BH is allegedly selling his house? I still don't agree with the way Bev ran her courtroom and how biased I felt she was with the Karen Read and her team. I felt they had to work for everything they asked for and still never got it. That is kind of the life of a criminal defense lawyer. Wes, Peter, fun to learn you're a cheer dad, aside from nursing, been in the industry for 30 years, coach at a college level now. Hope your little one learns all life lessons. I enjoy teaching them, the athletes that I coach. She's amazing. She's wildly good. Peter, what do you think actually happened to John O'Keefe? I don't know. I worry this is creating case law for DUI charges based on bar videos. No, I don't think it's going to affect DUI law. Just by the way, so many people specialize in it. It's like a science. They have all 50 different ways to attack it. Similar experts in like most trials. So I don't think it's going to change much there. How does the jury get to the courthouse without seeing anything outside or being seen by the public? I think they're escorted. Hey, the Commonwealth can't come back and charge her again, even if they have video showing her hit him with the car. Correct. She can go outside and say, I did it, and they still can't charge her. With this case, you never know. Yeah, I wouldn't do that though, just in case something happens with a juror or something. Alan Jackson, if you see this, I love you. T2, most surprising thing today is that neither lawyer nor his dad have heard of Schrodinger's cat. Love you guys. Thanks for all the great coverage. It's funny. My brain goes a mile a minute during these lives with all the different questions. I have no idea what anybody's ever going to ask. And I'm just, boom, firing off answers. So things pop up all the time where I'm like, do I even know what that is? Now what do we do with our lives? Such an exhale moment. Yes, maybe take a breath and relax a little bit. But you guys let me know what's next. I know Koberger's got a hearing today. If you guys are interested, I'll have to take a look at it. Not today, probably not tomorrow. I was waiting to go into my PT appointment when the verdict was read. I must have looked like a crazy person when they said not guilty. Thank you both for the great coverage of this case. I think a lot of people were paying attention to this today. I really do. Will the judge give any comments to Karen Reed like they do for guilty verdicts at a later time? Or is that it with their dealings? Unless she's going to has anything to do with probation, I think that might be it. Do the sidebar discussions get released? I would assume they'll be they're going to be part of the record, but I don't know if anybody's going to be ordering the record because there's not going to be an appeal. Lorraine, another trial in the books with Lawyer and Papa T. What a ride. Which one are you doing next? Thanks, guys, for sorting it all out. I really do prefer doing trials. I do like doing that the best. I'm going to close out all these streams now. And if there is one, Kelsey, just let me know and I'll take a look. You guys let me know what's next, right? You know what? Let me know. Sounds sickly, but I had to pull over and bald. A lot of people emotionally invested. Peter, I'm one of your silent watchers, but I love your videos. I work for Geico Litigation Department, so we are on opposite sides. But if I ever get a claim with you as OC, I will be completely biased. Well, Glenda, I hope to see you one day. And you'd be surprised how many opposing counsels and adjusters have been like, I watch your YouTube. It's awesome. And we're able to work together and we come to a fair result. I have not tried a case against somebody except during trial, somebody told me, hey, I found your YouTube channel and I'm watching a bunch of your videos. She told me during the trial, which was kind of funny. And I was like, okay, cool. What happens to Karen Reed's SUV? She gets it back. It's no longer evidence. I called the waterfall and ordered a sidebar. Like in baseball, defense made adjustments to the new pitcher, Hank Brennan. Adjustments make it a whole new ball game. Couldn't agree more. Jury duty next month. I think I'll be better now. A ton of people have reached out and been like, I feel so prepared to go be a jury. And I love to hear that. Shout out to the law nerds that are now here. Shout to you. Does Emily no longer? I know she was like traveling or something. I would love to get, together with her on stream at some point and discuss all things Karen Reed. I think we can make it happen. Tracy, Schrodinger's cat equals physics principle that says if a cat is in a box but is not being observed, it is both alive and dead in the same time and space. I feel like I have to read that 5 times. LOL became a lawyer. I don't think she'll ever want to see inside the courtroom again. I've heard she was so good. So if she has a talent for it and can fight for justice for other people, she knows how important it is. My son plus his wife are on vacation in San Diego. I bet him we'd have a verdict by the time he hit the first tee box at Torrey Pines. Oh, talk about jealous. You just made me jealous. Within minutes of the verdict, he FaceTimed me from the first tee. I'm so jealous. I got to get out there, man. I got to get out there. Thanks for all the hours spent following this trial with us, Pizza. Here's to many more trials together as spectators. Thank you. Schrodinger's cat is a cat in a box, and when you can open the box, but before you do, you have no idea if the cat is alive or dead. Love you guys. So happy for this verdict. If not entirely destroyed, would she be entitled to get her vehicle back? Yes. When does she get it back? I don't know what the timing would be there. Kelsey, I think if she wouldn't have done those interviews, they wouldn't have found her guilty on the OUI charges. Maybe, but it's like, it's a butterfly effect, right? With Ashton Kutcher, you change one thing and it's just, they got the result I think they wanted. So from their perspective, why change anything? Why change anything? We're good with what happened. Peter and Mr. Peter's dad, you guys are amazing. Loved watching both trials with you. And I think Michelle said we got to keep my dad coming on for the weekly podcast. It's a lot for him to keep up with all this. We're definitely going to have him on as much as possible. I don't know if it'll be every week, but definitely we'll have him on plenty. Thoughts on the judge? At the end of the day, it wasn't her call. I'm late, just left the courthouse, can't confirm. Crowd there loves you, Peter. Oh, gosh. Okay, cool. You think the civil case will go away? BOP is lower in a civil case. Not sure I see JOK family dropping it. It is lower, so they can still, think they can prove it there. We'll see. Do you think Dever lost her job? I don't. The family was there. They left right after it was read. I can't imagine. It's brutal. I think it was the right and just verdict, but it doesn't make it any less brutal for the family. What is the burden of proof in a civil case? 50.1%, right? So if a criminal case is 99% or 90% or whatever you want to put on it, civil case is just over 50%. Did you see the statements from the McAlberts? I don't know if this is officially their statement or not, but Kelsey sent me this statement and it said, today, our hearts are with John and the entire O'Keefe family. They have suffered through so much and deserve better from our justice system. While we may have more to say in the future, today we mourn with John's family and lament the cruel reality that this prosecution was infected by lies and conspiracy theories spread by Karen Read, her defense team, and some in the media. The result is a devastating miscarriage of justice. And I get their grief. I understand they're angry. I think a lot of their private chats and things they said that they thought would never reach the light of day did and affected this case. And maybe, that'll be something that's learned today. Peter and Pops, what watch are you wearing today? I didn't see what my dad had on. I have my very first nice watch I ever bought, which is my Air King. It's like my nice, easy, light watch. I love it. So not to out myself, trying to help people feel better. I had a DUI at 22, sober 9 years now. I had a 1-year license loss and 1-year probation. Emma, what if someone was bullied into their decision? Well, if they come out and say that, could create problems. There could be jury problems. I think it's unlikely. I've never seen anything like this. Did they send back another verdict form? And will they fill out for all charges? Yeah, I've never seen anything like it too. Some of these I think were a little bit older. Would they be saying verdict is in if it was hung? No. How much money do you think that OnlyFan is making? Oh my gosh, my nerves are shot. Come on with the verdict already. I'm feeling nervous. How on earth is Karen Read feeling right now? Indescribable. Indescribable. Fox News says they have a verdict. It's just so wild, everybody that's following this. I agree with Turtle Boy's guess. False alarm was because they panicked that they filled out the form wrong. Makes me think guilty on OUI only. She also kept them around closely, so I don't know what Judge Cannoni knew. Maybe it's not a juror changing their mind, but just understanding what the question was and realizing it when they stated talking alternate after the fact. Does Lally look like the better prosecutor because he got hung jury? I definitely don't think he's a better prosecutor. Was his theme and theory and strategy better? Maybe. But I also think the defense's was worse. And I think the defense's was more worse than the prosecutor's was better in the first trial, if that makes sense. I want to know, can they get their money back from the bad job the Action Reconstructionists did? No, they fulfilled their contract. Do you think any of the jurors lied about previous knowledge? I'm 31 in M&A, Massachusetts, and I truly don't know anyone who hasn't heard of this case before this trial. I don't know the answer to that, but they could still have heard about it, just not any bias and prejudice. Have you guys ever noticed have you ever voiced your opinion on whether you thought she was innocent? It's just hard for me to say. I think she is much closer to innocent than guilty, right? But so far away from guilty and clearly in the not guilty camp, basically from the jump, which annoyed some people, but we watched the first trial, was leaving it open for Hank Brennan to have some new things, especially for what their new expert said. And when it was just horribly falling short, to me, that ended it for me personally during this trial as well. And it was very clearly not guilty from the jump as the just verdict from my perspective. And I'm not going to apologize for that. That's how I saw it. That's how I felt the evidence was in the case. And that's how it ended up going. But I'm not right on every case, right? I enjoyed the chat. And for me, I thought it was kind of hilarious. Again, I consider the chat being absolutely correct on this. They were not guilty on everything, very clearly, 90%-ish. But on the OUI, it was basically 50-50. And that's the one that ends up coming back guilty. That's not a coincidence to me. That's really not a coincidence to me at all. If I was Ms. O'Keefe, I would demand to know who killed my son, and I wouldn't stop until I had that answered. Hard not to blame Karen, but she must. A live cat is put in a box. Somebody opens the box and says the cat is dead. The person says, well, it is now. The cat's fate is linked to when that fate is observed. It's alive until it's observed to be dead. That was a good explanation. Question, if new evidence comes in, could they not retry her at that time? No. Question, if new evidence, was just a repeat. No. Nope. Like the Ring camera. No. Were the lesser charges in order of severity? Yes. What happens to her car now? Will the Commonwealth give her money back for it? Love Papa T. Not money, but they'll give her car back. Can we all have a ham sandwich today? I'm getting a little hungry. Maybe I'll go make one. As much as I agree with the verdict, my heart's still broken in for his niece and nephew. I agree. The entire O'Keefe family, listen, people can hate on them all they want. I still feel horrible for them. My heart is broken for niece and nephew that have had a person info released because of this trial, and they have already lost so much. Those kids deserve the world. Peter, how about that ARCA collab now? Hit us up. Matthew, hey, you're on my list, brother. You're on my list. I'll share it with the litigation team as well. I did not see John's family there. I'm not sure. Do you think same team for civil case against her? I mean, you have to pay for that, right? So I don't know. I'm sure they have a lot of cases they have to get to. There are more people watching here than there is in the news and Boston news station. Yeah, baby. Congratulations, Karen Read and team. That's what my dad was talking about, which is truly wild to me. Most expensive DUI case ever for both Karen Read and Massachusetts taxpayer. So happy for Karen Read and team. And yeah, and that was one of the things like from our DUI trial that was very long and expensive. Like, it was very long and expensive for our client too. And I truly believe that she was not guilty, and it ended up in a hung jury, and then they dropped the charges down. Love your coverage. Also love the shout out to content creators from Mr. Reed. You all did a great job and set a good example of collaboration, unity, and respect. I would love to shout them all out now. I don't want to forget anybody because there's so many, but so many people providing great coverage and so many different flavors and styles and people you guys go to. And I love that. And I always say, like, I appreciate you spend a little time here too, because you don't have to. There's plenty of places you could be and you choose to be here. I'm so emotional, not just to see Karen's freed, but also to see the lawyers' reactions. They have dedicated years. That's not fake, okay? They've dedicated years of their lives to this, and it's clearly they deeply believe in her innocence. I believe that 100%. They fought with everything they had. Peter, the balloons are a gesture feature on your Mac that you have to turn off. What if I like them? What if I like the balloons when I do certain things? You know, thumbs up. Never happens when I want it to, but I want to thank you for giving us your time, making law easy to understand, and sharing your truly unbiased opinion. Remember your rights, everyone. What is the Adelson case? Have you done one on that yet? Yes. So I went to school at Florida State University College of Law. There was a professor there with the last name of Adelson and Markel. Last name of Markel. His wife's last name was Adelson, and he was found shot in his driveway. And it's this big conspiracy. They've already convicted multiple people in the conspiracy, and they believe his wife's family was involved. Her brother's been convicted, and her mother has now been arrested, and her trial is starting soon. Huge conspiracy, very interesting trial. Know a lot of the people involved. Love his appellate attorneys, Ufferman, and the attorney that is with Ufferman. I don't know if she's his partner or associate that I went to law school with, talked to her at FACDL as well. Great, very smart attorneys. She was a public defender for many, many years. And so I know a lot of the people involved there, and it's in Tallahassee in my backyard. That's the Adelson case. Can she get her license back after losing it? I don't know what the parameters are on that, so I can't really answer that. Clean cut Johnny Depp to play Alan Jackson. Would that be worlds colliding? Can they say Arca was hired by the feds in a civil trial? I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't had something like that come up. It may still be prejudicial, maybe the same ruling, but I don't know. It's a little different in a criminal context, so I don't know. If Karen Reed gets deposed about Long, John O'Keefe at the bar, and she should say it was a false memory. I have really enjoyed watching you and have found a new appreciation for criminal law. Best day ever. New need lawyer you know merch. Well, John's supposed to be telling me about, I got new logos coming potentially, or updated logos, I should say. Lawyer you know merch coming. So hopefully that comes very soon. Got to go. Need 1 hour nap before ready for work. LOL. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, this one went long, 2.5 hours. We're almost done though. Watching from Ireland and having a Cuba Libre in an hour of Karen Reed, honor of Karen Reed. Viva Karen Libre. Thank you so much for all your coverage. On to the next. Yes, you guys let me know. What's next? What are you watching? New Dateline Center of the Storm just announced. No surprise there, but I think like an actual, like with real actors TV movie. There are going to be so many like documentary style versions of this. Absolutely. Immediately looking for juror interviews. Please send them to me if you find them. Send them to me if you find them. This not guilty. Expect better from the police. I agree. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, $1. All Gators stand up and holler for the correct verdict. FBI or Internal Affairs will get involved. Sounds like a prediction. Runkle, speaking of great content creators, justice. So glad for this result. It's the truth. It's what should happen. Law enforcement, prosecutors should not be rewarded for this type of investigation and prosecution. At what point do you think the plan to pin it on Karen Reed came into play? Oh man, I need to get out of this chair. When she allegedly said I hit him, or was it planned from the get-go? I don't know, but Proctor felt like immediately. Please cover Brian Koberger next. Let me know. Let me know in the chat, on Instagram, on Twitter. Let me know what's next, what you guys are watching next. Thank you for your many hours and hard work covering Karen Reed persecution. My family and plus cousins and in-laws and I tuned in by the pool on our family vacation, cheering from Boyne, Michigan. Love you, PETA. That's awesome. That's awesome. If you're on vacation, let me know where in the chat, because it's summer. A lot of people on vacation. We're going to Greece in about 2 weeks. I can't wait. Boston needs a bar named the Side Bar. Nathan, thanks for breaking down U.S. state law for those of us in foreign jurisdictions. Started a JD in trial first, or one after yours. I think Johnny Depp maybe. EDB and Runkle's coverage halfway through. Oh, that's a task. Talk about binge watching. So what do we do now? There's plenty of learning to still be done. There's plenty of trying to improve and get better, learn more, be better citizens, understand our justice system more. Plenty of that to be had. Peter, if you come to South Dakota, let me know. Have my son's whole travel ball club watching you, and Carlsbad, Pop Warner fam watching too. Tons of people who would buy you rounds of waters, and a few members to TP. That's awesome. That's awesome. Lion Mom. is anybody watching Ryan Trahan's 50 States in 50 Days? Because it's making me want to go to every single state. It felt to me that the Commonwealth was trying to trick the jury into a verdict. It felt very deceptive and purposely not connected. Is this common? It was scary to watch as a citizen. No, I will absolutely say not common, but it does happen. Can his family sue Canton due to the horrible investigation? If they were going to do that, it would have been something you usually have to notify them of prior to. Who is responsible for damage to the Lexus? Oh, I mean, listen, I don't think she's going to go that route. Well, third-party culprit play better at a civil trial? No, I'll probably play worse. I think there was no collision will play very well at a civil trial. If I had that case, that's what I would go with. Peter, Kelly Devers will be lucky if she's demoted to meter maid. I don't know. Or do they have to keep her right where they want her? I don't know. Did Karen lose her license? I didn't hear that yet. I don't know if that's part of the probation. I didn't see that. I picked Wednesday as a verdict day. Yay me. Savant. MZ Vicky. Savant. Thank you, Lindsay, for the super chat. I think it's FBI time. I don't know. Please don't lose the balloons. They're too funny. I do kind of think it's funny too now. It just kind of makes me laugh when they pop up there unexpectedly. Michelle said yes to the proposal. Thanks for the help on that one, Peter. Well, Derek, I hope you guys have a long and lovely marriage. Basically, the verdict slip in evidence is Schrodinger's cat. We don't know if it's not guilty times 3 or guilty of manslaughter. It's perpetually both until we know. Okay, I get it now. I'm just leaving the courthouse. I was driving through Dedham on my way to my tiny camp in Maine. What timing. It was incredible. Someone on TV said Amy Schumer should play Bev in the movie Aces. Oh boy. I can only imagine what people think about that. San Diego and Torrey Pines course. Sorry. Hey, good on you. All right, folks, I am tired, and we are done. I love you all. Thank you for being here. We will still be around. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button if you guys have not hit it already. Let's get this one maxed out likes, and share it with anybody following this case. Would it be typical to have the same legal team in civil trial, different specialties needed? We have done both before, but typically it's different. And it's very expensive. It's tough to have somebody on for both, especially, big, high-priced private lawyers. All right, that's it. I don't know if I'm going to take a break. I don't know what's going to happen. It does feel like coming down from a real trial. I mean, this was a real trial. It's not my trial, though. Yeah, so that's it. I am going to head out of here. I will talk to you guys. I don't know when I'll talk to you. I might do some kind of recap with my dad for the podcast on Monday. Especially if there are any interviews or things like that. But send me if there are juror interviews, lawyer interviews, any interviews you want me to break down. Make sure you send them over to me at Tragos Law on Instagram, at Lawyer You Know on Twitter, or on our community page here on YouTube. That's it. That's all, folks. Until next time, peace out. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.